Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 IADD Mud Motor Forum. Thank you guys so much for joining us and being here with us. This is essentially, what we're going to call the pre-show and sponsorships highlights. And with us today, none other than Jim Overkirk. Jim, thank you for being here, sir.
It's great to be here. Thanks for getting everything pulled together, David.
I only did a small portion of this. It's all about the people behind the scenes like yourself and Ileana and John. Thank you all so much for being there for us and helping us get everything put together. So, Jim, I want to start off with asking you, what are your thoughts and feedbacks as far as 2020 so far this year?
Well, it certainly has been an interesting year, hasn't it? I think, I've been in the industry almost 40 years, and I can't think of something being quite as cataclysmic as this. I mean, even going through the crash of 82, 83, and others. I think this is going to be industry changing. We are not going to go back to business as usual from before. I think there's going to be probably a significant reduction in certainly rig count and likely personnel. I've said it a number of times, the big crew change is over. The older guys are, for the most part, have retired now. And it's turned over to the younger generation. There's certainly that gap. I'm 60. I'm right at the tail end of the big crew change, and when I look ahead of me, there aren't a whole lot of guys that are older than me, and I look behind me, and there's about a 15-year gap. So I think that next stage is probably the guys that are in their mid 40s, and then it goes back from there. So this is a good opportunity, I think, for the younger folks. It's time to step up. I think they're quite capable. But I also think that there's opportunities for education, for training, for perspective. This is certainly going to be a new world going forward in so many ways. So I'm looking, there's going to be opportunities here. I think IADD can certainly have a role in helping to shape our industry going forward.
Well, thank you for that, Jim. And I want to be able to be sure that we let everybody know that this is obviously a free event. So let us know where you guys are watching from. Are you on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn being able to watch this? And let us know where you're watching from, because this is the International Association of Directional Drilling. We definitely want to be able to highlight some of the people that are outside of the U.S. I know, for years past, a lot of our events have been primarily focused on doing stuff here in the Houston, Texas, Midland, or Dallas area, but we definitely want to be able to highlight all of the people that are around the world watching. So we do have Sadir says, thank you, watching from I am Algerian. So he says he's Algerian. Maybe he is in Algeria. I'm not sure, but hey, we've got Richie watching from South Austin, Texas. We've got Donald, who's from Melbourne. There we go. JP Warren, who's watching from Houston, Texas. He's got the Around the Rotary podcast. Guys, be sure to check that out. We've got Hans checking in from the Netherlands. Oh, wow. These are going so fast now. I can't click them quick enough. We've got Aaron Baxter. Aaron Baxter from Granbury, Texas. Yeah, let me see if I can click that. Ukraine. There we go. Kiev, Ukraine on the line. Thank you guys for being here. India, Houston, Jason in Houston. This is great. Thank you guys all for watching. If you guys can, please be sure to share this, tag a friend in the comments to let them know what's taking place. That, we've got this is the 2020 IMWD Mud Motor Forum. Be sure to let your friends and everybody know to be able to jump in and watch here. We've got India tuning in again. Matt Ryan, who's in the Pioneers Real-Time Drilling Center. So hopefully then that means this is being broadcast on like 20 or 30 different screens that they've got in there, because this is obviously the most important thing they have going on today.
I don't know, David. I think one screen with you and I on it is more than enough, don't
you? Quite possibly. We've got Oman, Gary Smith in Houston, Texas. Let's see.
Serbia.
Oh, do we have a Serbia? Oh, yeah. So we got Thailand, Serbia, Scott, Louisiana. Thanks, Hank.
That's another foreign country, right?
Just about. Thank you guys all for being here. This is absolutely great. I mean, wow, we're really picking up steam here pretty quick. Like I said, please share this so that we can get the word out there for as many people to be able to watch. They can jump on and be here. We've got just about 8 minutes before we actually kick off the show. We're going to be kicking it off with one of our main sponsors, and huge thank you to all of our sponsors. Dynadrill is going to be the ones leading the way. So anything you'd like to add in there, Jim, on...
Dynadrill is our title sponsor. Way back when this event was going to be live at the early part of the year, they had really stepped up and wanted to take the title sponsorship. So they've done a great job of hanging in there with us, because we've had to pivot a few times, coming through the summer and everything. But they've done great, and I know that they've got a lot of things to talk about today. So we're looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, so huge thank you to all of our sponsors. So we do have upcoming today. I'm going to go through here real quick for our schedule, right? And so we've got first kicking it off with our welcome and introduction is Dynadrill. Next, we're going to have an update on the industry from Richard Spears with Spears and Associates. Next, we've got session 2 starting about 10:40 a.m. with emerging technologies. We'll have rival downhole tools. And then directly after that, NOV with Scott Dixon. Session 3 starting at 11:05 a.m. We've got a sponsor highlight from Loda Tech. Shortly after that, we'll have a sponsor highlights and breakdown between myself and Jim, kind of going over the early sessions of the day. At 11:30 a.m., we'll have applications with scientific drilling and then Scout Downhole. They'll be coming on and talking. At session 5, we'll have a sponsor highlight with Dynadrill. They'll be giving us a full presentation. And then at 12:30, once again, Jim and I will be doing a breakdown of the sessions that we've gone over up to that point, as well as discussing what we'll have coming up in the next couple of sessions after that. Session with Bill Murray, the business of motors. This is going to be a great one. We need to be able to tune into this one. Are we eating our seed corn? All right. And then at 101 to 105, we've got Loda Tech sponsorship highlight. And then at 105 to 140, rounding out the end of the show, we've got emerging technologies. This is going to be the most interesting part of the show. You guys do not want to miss this. Like I said, emerging technologies. We've got XR Lateral, Carpenter Technology Corporation, and then Rhyme Energy Services. An absolutely amazing, action-packed lineup for everybody in there. What are you looking forward to most, Jim?
Well, it's always good to hear from Richard on the state of the industry. Having that perspective is a good thing. But you notice that there's a lot of new technologies here, and that's been my experience as well. Is that over the time that the when the industry sags a little bit, that's often when most of the innovation comes out. So I think we have a good opportunity here to make some changes, make some substantive changes to the industry. And then when things do bounce back a little bit, I think we're ready to do an even better job.
Well, I have to say that I'm looking forward to the last group, the emerging technologies group, the most. I know a little bit about some of those companies and some of the things they're doing. I'm just really curious of what they're going to say out there publicly for everybody to be able to share. And because a lot of this stuff, it's really interesting. It's really fun to be able to see what people say publicly about their new technology, because a lot of stuff ends up happening just kind of in private conversations. You don't get to really hear the cool, juicy stuff.
Right.
So I'm really interested in being able to see what those groups are going to be able to share. Right. We've also got Scottsdale, Arizona tuning in. Ellie, thank you guys for being here. Once again, guys, please share this. We've got a little bit of time. Still, remember, we got about 4 minutes before we really, truly kick off the show here. We're going to have Gerard Johnson from Dynadrill coming on to be able to do the welcome and introduction. Really looking forward to that. Followed directly after that with Richard Spears with an update on the industry. So, yeah, he's waving to us in the green room. He's backstage essentially right now. So he's already here, ready to go, ready to jump on. So like I said, guys, please go ahead and share this. If you want to, share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, share it on any of your social media channels, or just walk over to the office next to you. Or if you're working from home, go knock on your neighbor's door and tell them how important it is that they need to watch this, because it really is.
I see we have somebody from Luanda, Angola on.
Yeah.
Also Colombia.
I think we're doing a really good job here of being able to bring in the international audience today.
Yeah. Well, I remember on the MWD forum, David, that we literally had people from 6 different continents watching all at the same time. I think the only one we missed was Antarctica, and I guess the word just didn't get down there in time. Otherwise, I'm sure somebody from there would have been on as well.
You know, I think we just need to work a little bit harder next time then. We even have Jenny Wilson from over there at Drill Formats. I always have to give a shout out to Jenny. She's been watching LinkedIn live stuff from even when I first started my LinkedIn live stuff with my show, the Vidor Locksmith Show, which I'm going to plug real quick. Guys, be sure to tune in tomorrow. Graham Minta Wilmot and his new company is going to be on the show tomorrow.
That will be exciting.
Don't want to miss this. He's by far, of all the guests that I've ever had on my show, he is by far the most excited to be on the show. He has called me probably 2 to 3 times a week. I think yesterday he called me 2 or 3 times just yesterday, wanting to talk about making sure we got everything ready to go. So that's going to be an absolutely amazing interview. You're not going to want to miss it. He's going to be sharing all kinds of stuff. Aaron Baxter says, I've got a bad echo.
That
Aaron, are you watching?
I don't hear it.
Are you watching on LinkedIn and on YouTube at the same time? Because if you're watching on 2, maybe the audio is just a little bit different. Just for to let everybody know, as we're doing this, we definitely want all the questions coming in. We're going to try to keep track of them. So some of the presenters, they'll present for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. It might have a pre-recorded video, and then afterwards we'll be able to do Q&A. So ask your questions as the videos or as the presentations are going along, and then we'll be able to open it up for Q&A. So we definitely want to be able to get that interaction going. There is a 30-second delay between what happens here and then what you see out there in the internet world. So just be sure to know that. Let's see. Legos. I didn't hear any echo. So it sounds like we're doing pretty good. We got about a minute before we throw Gerard on. Gerard, I hope you're ready to go, sir. He's giving us a thumbs up in the green room. Any last words before we kick this thing off, Jim?
No, I think you've really kind of covered it there, David. Let's encourage the questions. On these virtual formats, it's a little harder to have exactly the same interaction that you would in person. But don't be shy. Put the questions up. We'll have people that'll be watching, for those questions so that we can get them put in. We do have some flexibility in some of the timing of things, so we can always get some of these put in and get the discussion going.
I'm having to test something out real quick because I don't know. Okay, there we go. I couldn't get like the comments actually off the screen. I'm using a new streaming system. Sorry to my old system, but we had to change it up for this one. So, Jim, thank you so much. Gerard, we are bringing you on, sir. Take Jim up. Gerard, kick it away, sir. The floor is all yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is the Product Champion. Nope. There it is. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Gerard Johnson, and I'm the Product Champion for Dynadrill. And I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 Mud Forum. We're really excited about today's discussion. And throughout the day, you'll have the opportunity to learn about a lot of great technologies from Dynadrill and other companies. So I hope that you enjoyed today's discussion, and please feel free to contact me or the Dynadrill sales team afterwards with any questions that you may have. We look forward to seeing you soon. And until we do, stay safe.
Gerard, thank you so much for the introduction. We do have a couple more minutes. What are you looking forward to most in today's session?
So I think you hit all the nails on the head. I mean, there's a lot of great technologies out there. So I'm looking forward to see how the motor industry has evolved and also the state of the motor industry as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I know I'm going to be sitting here taking notes all day.
What can you tell us? Because Dynadrill is one of our key sponsors here. So give yourself a little bit of plug. Can you give us a little bit of a taste of what you guys are going to be presenting later today?
Yeah, so recently we've repositioned our portfolio. So we now have the Dynapower elastomer family, which includes a number of different elastomers. And so today we are going to highlight Dynapower XP, which is our new extreme power elastomer. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the others that we have historical, which are Dynapower HR, and then Dynapower XR, which is our extreme wear resistant elastomer. So we'll talk a lot about the elastomer family, and each one of them has a specific purpose and how they're specific for your application. So we're really focusing on fit for purpose development.
So what do you think have been some of the biggest changes in mud motor development over the past several years?
Good question. I mean, really, motors have just been considered kind of dumb iron, and they're just a commodity that comes along with the tool. We've seen a lot change, really, and motors are starting to get a lot more complicated. I think I saw a lot of things on the schedule that caught my attention, and also looking at some of the recording devices that are potentially in motors as well. So there's a lot going on to make motors more smart tools.
What do you see as far as going forward in the future? You know, maybe something that's not presented today, but where do you see the motor technology going, 5 to 6 years out from now?
Good question. I wish I could tell you what we're doing.
Good questions. Come on now.
I wish I could tell you what we're doing, but I can't. I can tell you that there's a long road ahead for motors, and they're not going to stay as is. So they're just going to continue to evolve, whether or not that's the elastomer, the lower end, et cetera. And I even saw bearings on the list as well. So I continue to hope for a lot of evolution in the motor industry.
So do you think that there really is a true battle between RSS and motors?
I think there certainly could be. And what we're working on, I think there's certainly a potential for it. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Yes.
Yeah, maybe for you guys internally, you guys would definitely have to do a battle because it's a battle over R&D dollars. It'd be like, nope, the future is definitely with motors. Nope, the future is with RSS. So yes, hopefully you guys.
For sure. I do have a counterpart on the RSS team. So we're always kind of trying to figure out where we want to put our money. But I think I've won a few of those battles.
Do they usually have you guys like arm wrestle in there, and they're like, all right, whoever wins this just gets the bigger chunk of the R&D?
No, they don't want to arm wrestle with me.
Well, Gerard, thank you so much. We do appreciate Dynadrill taking the time to be a part of this event, as well as being a sponsor for this event. And yeah, prior to us even having this format, that's a really big thing for us, here with the IADD. And we do have to say this real quick, Gerard, we've got you here. We had a good mud motor IADD training yesterday. So if you guys have never done this, be sure to check this out. Dr. Robello is probably one of the foremost experts in the industry when it comes to mud motors and the training, the technology that goes into these things. Through in conjunction with the IADD, we put these events on a fairly regular basis. So be sure to check out the website. Look at the schedule that's upcoming. It'd be phenomenal for your career to have an even better understanding. If you see, Gerard, if you see anybody in the comments that's from y'all's company, be sure to throw it in there. Guys, let us know where you're watching from. And if you happen to be with Dynadrill or Schlumberger, or even ex-Schlumberger, I'm ex-Schlumberger, you can even say that. That's fair enough. Yeah. A lot of us that break through the blue barrier, but hey, Even Blue was a great sponsor, so we have to say thank you guys for that. I also have to mention, we did mention that Dr. Robello, he will be on the Vidor Locksmith show. So if you guys want to get a little taste of some of the stuff that he has to do on December 4th, I believe. December 4th. So guys, be sure to check that out. All right, Gerard, thank you so much. We are going to go ahead and we're going to skip ahead in the schedule a little bit and give some more time to our wonderful next guest speaker. I think this makes him the keynote speaker since he's coming in first. This is Richard Spears with Spears Associates, an update on the industry. Gerard, thank you so much. We'll have you back on here in just a little bit. All right, here we go. Richard, are you there? I don't hear you.
Okay. All right, so I've got my technical guy working on it.
Okay. We'll give it just a second. I did hear something, but it was a little bit delayed. No worries, though.
How about now? Is that working?
Yes, sir. That is okay. Yeah, I think maybe it just had to take a second for everything to be able to get up to speed. All right. I'm going to get one of these little graphics off the screen because I don't know how to do it with this other software. And I'm going to take myself off the screen. And Richard, it is all you. Thank you for being here, sir.
David, it is a delight, and I think that the service that this organization does for the industry is it is so good. I mean, you're causing the other organizations that are associated with the oil and gas industry to raise their game. For example, in the last couple of days, I've done 2 events for different SPE groups, and they're having to step up to the plate. So good job for raising the bar just as high as you possibly can. Because, what technology advances faster than the directional drilling business? I'm not sure. I mean, for something that relies on hardware and people showing up for work, this is an industry that moves forward. So here's what I'm going to do today. It's the state of the industry, and it won't be long. And David, I have no idea if you'll channel questions to me or not, but let's do it this way. Also, I'm going to make this presentation available to you via PDF, and I'll route it through Jim and David and whoever on their end so they can distribute it. So you don't need to worry about taking notes or trying to figure out what's on my little TV screen. Let's put some things in context, because whenever a directional driller is out on location, he's always, or she now, I guess, every once in a while, is out there on a drilling rig. So let's see the drilling contractors first, just to put the market in context. First, the offshore contract drillers. And don't worry about what the labels, this is 2016. This is projected through 2021. And have a look at this. 2016, which if you're a U.S. land guy, terrible year. However, international wasn't that terrible. The offshore contract drillers earned $40 billion in revenue that year. But next year, it'll be half that, $19 billion. So you've got an offshore contract drilling community that is watching their market evaporate in front of their eyes. In fact, you see this already. Look at that trend, 16, 17, 18, 19 had just turned. It had just turned around. It was setting up 2020 to be a year of growth for the first time in years. And then, of course, look what happened. So you evaporate a little bit more in the offshore contract driller market. So whenever a directional drilling system is out on an offshore rig, this is what the mothership is dealing with, is the evaporation of their business. You're also on land rigs. Let's look at the land contract drilling market. I'll step out of the way. This is a market that had grown, and in 2018, you had a brand new peak, $20 billion spent on land contract drilling services. This is, of course, global. All these numbers are global. We'll look at the American markets in just a bit. But this is a global market. You had seen 2018 as the peak, $20 billion. There's 2019, there's the awful year of 2020, and there's 2021 at $10 billion. So the land contract drillers are seeing their market contract in half in a shorter period of time. The offshore guys, I'm going to skip back that, here's offshore, just to remember how that worked. Offshore took the big hit in 2017, and it's been this constant erosion ever since. Land contract drillers, a little bit differently, they peaked in 2018 in the current cycle and are enjoying quite a downturn. So with that context, with those offshore guys and the land contract drillers, let's take a look at the directional drilling market, at least the way our firm measures it. And it's my friend and colleague, David Hutchison, who spends, a third of his time or 40% of his time dealing with trying to measure the directional drilling market. And I think David is listening to this call. So David, if I screw up, just send me a text and I'll change it if I screw up. So here's the directional drilling service company revenues, everybody all piled together. So big guy Schlumberger all the way down to the directional driller who's got a couple of hands out in the field. This is global again, so it's not just US, it's global. So here you see it's so different than what the land contract drillers and the offshore contract drillers are dealing with. Because from a global point of view, the directional drillers had a 2019 market, which was their cyclic peak of $10 billion. Then you take the big hit in 2020 and another hit in 2021. This is 10 billion, this is 8 billion, that's 7 billion. So fewer and fewer dollars. you know, just we have so many people who are technical on this video, so you won't have a problem remembering the shapes. But the shapes of these curves, the shapes of these markets are different, and the directional drilling industry has actually done far better than the offshore contract drillers and the land contract drillers. So in that regard, you know, if it's you know, who's the tallest midget, it's kind of that sort of an argument. Still, everybody's doing poorly, but relatively speaking, you are better than the other people whose gear you are screwed onto. So the other part that we track at our firm is, well, no, it's core to what we do, is what are the revenues generated within each product and service at each of the oilfield service companies. And we try to track those, every service company that's larger than, say, $100 million. But in the world of directional drilling, we try to get down to a $50 million a year service company. There's so many people who are doing lower than that. But when you look at that and you see how the market shares have changed over time, this is the same period of time, 2016, projected through 2021. And this is the share of the market that each of these service companies has. So the big one, Schlumberger, I picked blue. Schlumberger in 2016 was about a 35% of the global market in terms of revenues. When the US land market is strong, their share of the global market tends to shrink because independents in the United States and in Canada surge, and they do better and better and better. But when the US market shrinks, that's when Schlumberger grows back up again. Same with Baker, same with Halliburton. And you see a slight restoration of Schlumberger's market share going into 2021. The other one is that the second one would be Baker Hughes, is in second place with directional. Halliburton is the gray area with is in third place. But it's this wide area here at the top. Those are pretty much all the independents. It's everybody smaller than, I think it was Scientific was the smallest of the big guys that we picked. So the wide area is everybody else. The other, I mean, David, you know the number. All people at the IADD, you know what the approximate number is, but 100 to 150 traction drilling companies. This is the market, or this is the group that when the U.S. is doing well, their share of the whole market grows, and when the U.S. is doing poorly, their share of the market shrinks. So we're in a period of time, of course, where you want to be Schlumberger because the market that's available is outside North America, and it's not just a three-horse race outside North America, but it's pretty much Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, and Halliburton everywhere else. Middle East is becoming a different story, isn't it? When you look at the year-to-year percent change of this market, you get a graph that looks like this. 2014 projected through 2021 is simply the percentage change of the market from year to year to year. So much red on this. And this, by the way, we're now moving into the U.S. land part of the business. Because I know that so many people on this call are have probably been in the industry for 20 and 30 and some for 40 and 50 years. You know that you're very familiar with cycles. Cycles don't scare you. They are discouraging, but it's part of the oil and gas industry. So you just learn to get into the rhythm of that. The thing that's so different ever since the discovery that you could drill a shale oil well is that downturns are no longer 1 or 1.5 years long. When for essentially my whole career since 1979, the United States was a gas province, and every once in a while you stumble upon an oil well. But ever since 2009, 2010, the U.S. is an oil province. And now it's part of the global community of oil prices, far more than it ever was before. Back during the gas days, you would see drilling activity rise to the point that you've oversupplied the gas market. It would collapse for a year, reboot. Drilling activity would grow again, collapse for a year, reboot. And that pattern was repeated over and over and over again. But ever since we became an oil province, completely different, because look what happens. Now, whenever we have a downturn, it's not for 1 year or 18 months, it's 2 solid years. Then you get 2019, 20, 21. I wonder if we're being too hopeful about 2021 being down only 24% from this year. However, this talk, I'm going to show you why you can be hopeful in this industry, because as long as you look at things on an annual basis, this industry stinks. But we're going to look at it from a quarterly basis right now. This is the entire U.S. oil field service sector, all spending on drilling, completion, and production from the third quarter of this year, the one we just finished. That's the fourth quarter of this year. And then let's march forward through the end of 2021. So, 15 months from now. If you look at it on a quarter by quarter basis, you see a U.S. market that actually has seen its worst quarter was behind us. It was the second quarter of this current year. And since then, spending on drilling and completion and production is beginning to rise very slowly. So if you're in the management of an oilfield service company, or in procurement of an oil company, and you're contracting for services, you got to know that activity across the United States is no longer in decline mode, but rather in, well, that's hard to say that it's growth for the next couple of quarters, but it's not falling anymore. The spending on things led first, get this, by hydraulic fracturing, hardly affects anybody in this call, but the market is turning around and grows from here. So the investors in the community, the oil companies in the world, the service companies who are doing their best to right size are actually in a situation where they may have to hire. Now, individual companies still have to figure out a way to match their market opportunities, but there is a general trend towards stability and growth from here on out. I should make the following note. This does not, for the most part, depend upon who the president of the United States is. If we were participating in a white-hot oil and gas market right now, if it was the opposite of this, if it was roaring right now, then I would say that the outcome of the election matters completely what happens in 2021. If Biden were elected and we were participating in a white-hot market right now, you would have to assume Biden's elected, the drilling completion production market collapses. Trump, it's status quo. Biden, it collapses. However, it's the opposite of that, isn't it? We are in the most devastating market that we've seen in many people's careers, and maybe all of our careers. So devastating. And as a result, no matter who the president of the United States is, the damage or the destruction to the industry has already been done, and we're now faced with, well, what do you do next? There is some risk with Biden if he's going to be the president. In the first year, he probably doesn't halt what he calls fracking, but we all know is just drilling a new well. But as time goes by, that risk of him doing something dramatically bad for the American oil and gas industry, folds into place. Whatever is bad for the American oil and gas industry is really good for everywhere else on the planet. The Middle East, Russia, North Sea, all of Latin America. So if you see something negative happen to drilling activity in the U.S. because of some regulatory event, that actually is going to be very good news for everybody else in the oil business around the world. So this is one of those reasons why it's really hard to be just an American oil company, or just an American oil field service company, or just an American investor. You need to be a global operation in order to be, to take advantage of these things going on. By the way, the one thing that Biden could do that really screws things up immediately is, somebody's going to have to pay these trillions of dollars back That's going to happen in the form of higher taxes, and a Democratic administration and Congress could decide that the oil industry is like the tobacco industry of old and slap a sin tax on what we do. And you put a sin tax on it, it causes it is effectively raising the cost of doing business in this country, and that's a negative event that could occur. Let's just skip through a couple things really quickly. Here's what we've done on this chart. Each year, the last 6 years or so, we've said what was the average oil price? That's this axis. And how much money did we spend in the U.S. oil field on this axis in billions? And even me, who went to public schools my whole life, that is, you can see the trend in the relationship between oil price and spending in the oil and gas industry. Just for those of you who are bad at pattern recognition, there's the line of best fit. By the way, that is, I'll just stand here and you can look at that. That is not a linear relationship, but rather, I think it's a polynomial, the simplest of all polynomials. And what you see is that as the price of oil gets lower, the rate of change accelerates. It gets worse and worse, faster and faster. So that you don't need $0 oil for zero spending. You need about $30 oil or $20 oil for zero spending in the oil and gas industry. So if you want to figure out what the next year's market's going to be, simply accurately guess the price of oil and pick it out on this chart and you'll have it. Our view is that oil starts at 40 and it ends at 50 during the course of the year. That's a $45 oil price. And that puts us somewhere right about here on the axis, so 60 or so billion dollars. Few words about regions in the United States. It is clear that Texas matters a lot. And I know that David Gibson puts a bunch of his time into accurately measuring what's going on in the directional world in the Texas market. In terms of dollars spent on directional drilling, because we measure dollars. I don't measure activity so much, but we measure dollars. And this is the way Texas works out. By the way, for Texas, in this case, I'm including North Louisiana, don't tell them. And I'm also including the New Mexico, the Permian Basin part of New Mexico. So if you count that as Texas, this is the growing importance of Texas. Back in 2016, then when we had the downturn, 2016 was about 35% of the spending on all directional drilling work was in Texas, or those little bookends on either side, North Louisiana and New Mexico. But as time has gone by, and as we move into 2021, the Texas part of the market now represents 60% of all spending. It shows you that oil companies are focusing their work on a smaller and smaller geographic area for a variety of reasons. One is simply that Texas is friendly to the oil and gas business, and a state like Colorado was friendly and is now completely hostile. And so if you're trying to build your business based upon Colorado, for example, you're sunk. Here's another area where it's not doing so well. My home state, this is the mid-continent region, but it's really Oklahoma. Oklahoma used to represent about 10% of the spending on directional drilling services. And as you go forward, it's almost nothing. So many aspects, so many things about the Oklahoma market. There's not one particular basin. There's not one particular reservoir. It's a bunch of sort of smaller reservoirs. So it's hard to get scale. It's hard to drive your cost as an oil company down to make the economics of the mid-continent region work. By the way, for Oklahoma, we also include Arkansas, who cares, and the Texas Panhandle. We love the Texas Panhandle. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Pampa, you gotta love Pampa. And, but it just does not attract the work it used to, nor is it a place to plan to grow your business materially in the next year or so. Finally, natural gas is waking up. Natural gas has been a subcomponent of the American oil and gas industry since 2008. 2008 and before, 40 years of natural gas. since 2009, 10, 11, 12, it's an oil province, and gas was always a byproduct, or now is a byproduct of oil production, and that never got much love. So on this particular chart, the big white line, the solid white line, that's oil price from 2016 by quarter. So the part you want to pay attention to is 2020 and 21. There's our slightly rising oil price through the end of the year. That's part of our plan. But it's the gas price, which is the interesting one. That's a pretty yellow dot. It's a $3 gas price. And so if you were a natural gas producer and you knew that you could get $3 for your natural gas, and you had service costs, so drilling costs, completion costs, and production costs that had hardly ever been lower in your life, then that is the market you go after. So when you look at activity that's in place already today, and over the next several quarters, it's the natural gas provinces, North Louisiana, East Texas. Back in the Northeast, it's got a few other funny things going on in the Northeast, but that's a good solid market. And remember back in the olden days, it used to be that South Texas was a gas province, what we now think of as the Eagle Ford, but they've got those, it was a natural, high pressure, hot natural gas market, and that could be restored. Also Oklahoma, but I've already said Oklahoma doesn't get much love for a while. Let's see, I think I've got two more charts. This is one I spent a bunch of money developing that chart right there. The budget here at Spears and Associates is just phenomenally huge. So we cobbled this together. This is the international quarterly drilling rig count change on a percentage basis. And of course, I don't remember what font we're using here, what software program, but it's fantastic. But here's 2015 by quarter, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And we've color coded it red, that's generally negative, and green, that's generally good. But the thing I want to point out here is that when you look at international rig count, it's generally the difference between, when you compare the international rig count to the domestic rig count, you find that in terms of like, if they were both boats, the American rig count would be like a bass boat, and the international rig count would be like a Disney cruise ship. So the bass boat can say, hey, fish over there, and turn it on a dime and whip over there and fish, and if there's no fish, it goes over here. Rapid change. The Disney cruise ship, it moves really slowly to whatever the tides are, or the weather, or whatever. So generally, in the international arena, a change quarter to quarter is only 2 or 3 or 4%. And you've seen that in 15 and 16, you saw it a little bit in 17. And when it says grow, it grows by 2% or 4% or 5%. 5% quarter to quarter growth is fantastically fast. So you've got this international market that for my career has moved very slowly. Look at 2020. Q1 was down a tiny amount. Q2 was devastatingly down. That's down 25%. It was all the Latin American rigs going off the market as people said, I'm scared of what COVID might be. Q3, that was Middle East and Asia. Q4 is everything else. There's been a little bit of a return in the Latin American market, but what you're seeing is this stunning, rapid downturn in the international arena that you just haven't seen in the oil and gas industry in ever. If you don't drill the well, you don't produce the oil. So that has implications down the road with the ability of the oil industry to produce the thing it produces. So here's the setup, I'll just do my last chart and we'll be done. But it's this. This year clearly is bad. Next year is clearly not great. You've got a little bit of growth in the United States. You have a little bit of growth in the international arena. But what you've got is a foundation or a floor from which you can begin to you get your business right-sized. You've got You don't have a whole lot of distractions between the oil companies and the service companies trying to talk to themselves. And you're setting up a situation where if demand for oil in the future rises, like we believe it does, despite the fact that at noon today, I'm on a Harvard Business School call that talks about every other type of energy growing and that oil won't. But we believe that demand for oil grows. And if demand for oil grows, but the industry's ability to produce the oil has actually been chopped off at the knees, then you set up this situation that's a year from now, where the ability to produce what the world wants is highly constrained. So, the longer it stays bad like this, the harsher the return to growth, or the price of oil's return to growth is. And then probably, it's Katie bar the door for drilling activity all over the world again. But for the time being, you've got the new floor, you're looking at it today. This is, for those of you who really focus on the United States, this is a quarter-to-quarter look at reservoir footage drilling versus spending on directional drilling services. And they're highly correlated. Whenever the lines separate, that tells you a little something about how competition is going right at that moment. But for the most part, it's in lockstep. We think that going forward, drilling activity for next year, quarter to quarter, a few more feet of hole drilled per day than right now. But that because so much competition is in place in the directional drilling world, that the demand for services in dollars in the directional drilling market for the US has a hard time growing. That trajectory, that might change if directional drilling companies go out of business at a faster pace and competition sort of consolidates. But I don't think that's the way to bet. Anyway, so David, I'm going to pause right there. I think we're 5 or 6 or 7 minutes before the end of this particular time. I have no idea how you want to do this, but I do hear you over in a speaker that's over here. What should we do? Oh, but Charlie, I need you to turn the speaker back on. Hang on, I can't hear you. Charlie, you've got to do something. I'm dependent upon a technician who's 12 miles away. So Charlie, I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, what? Oh, got it. All right, let's see if I can hear you. Talk again, David. I can't hear it. Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, my ability to hear you has evaporated. So hang on. Oh, I see that. I can see a call. Okay, here we are. Hey. Okay. Is this about the meeting right now? Okay, I'm gonna have to call you back. Thanks. I thought it was you. I'm not getting the audio here, and I can't actually see the questions. Do we know? Oh, it's over here. What future for oil field services? David, I don't know if we can resolve this on our end. We're trying to do this remotely, and I'm not sure I can pull this off. Hang on. We'll just try it this way. I've got a different way to sink in. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Oh, wait. So it's actually you, David? Or is it me? David, I can't hear you. So I'm talking to my technician in this phone right here. Are we there? David, try talking.
Oh, hello. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, I can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, guys, this is like my first time ever doing a live show, so I apologize. So there's a question there on the screen. What's the future for oil field services in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So, in our firm, the broader oil field service and equipment sector, we all spend all of our time working on that. But our colleague David Ott in Fort Worth is responsible for measuring that. you've got to take that 2021 is going to be a down year, and it's probably if you measure all things put together, it's a 15% down year from this year, which is a crappy year. But if you make the assumption that the vaccine works and that it takes an entire year for that vaccine to be deployed around the world in those areas that are the big consuming areas for oil and gas, then you've got demand for the product that we make come roaring back. It's already back pretty big. I don't know if anybody's been on an airplane lately, but the airports are packed and planes are flying again, not like they were. So, so that's the case. You're setting up a 2022, 23, 24, 25 period that actually, goes back to that 10 to 15% per year growth. And that's why, if you're a buyer of services, a buyer of companies, this is the time to do that.
All right, Richard. So I've got one question for you. How do you see the oilfield services market kind of playing out, and maybe even specifically with directional drilling, with the fact that we're seeing a lot of the larger operators starting to consolidate? How much do you think that will play out in market share for some of these oilfield service / directional drilling M2B service companies?
If you watched, the world of social media for the oil field is just fantastic. And the podcast that my brother and I do, we looked at the proposed or the coming merger of, say, Conoco and Concho, and then Devon and WPX. And the thing that jumps out at you is that in a situation where two oil companies go together, it is so critical to see what the buying behavior of each of those companies is, because it is rare that when two oil companies go together that it really is actually a merger of equals. There's always a winner, there's always a loser. And in the case of Conoco, I'm going to bet on the Conoco side. So, if you're working for Concho right now and you're not working for Conoco, you better hurry up and get on the stick. So I think that, the whole reason why you merge companies is to lower your cost of doing the whole reason. It's one reason, and consolidate the whole sector, including your supply chain. So, generally you've seen small oil companies hiring independent service companies for the most part. And in a case like that, it's the small oil companies that are really at risk.
All right, so I've got two more questions for you, and sorry guys, I'm pretty much stealing these. What do you see as far as the international growth in independent service companies? Do you think that there are any growing markets internationally for there to be more local content? I know that Nigeria had put out some stuff in years past where contracts were structured so that local companies could bid on the work. Do you see that growing anywhere else?
Yeah, if you were to sneak into our office at night and break in and look through the files, you would see that for the last decade or so, Saudi Aramco has been one of our largest clients here. And Saudi Aramco buys everything they can from us about the U.S. land market. Well, Saudi Aramco is not in the U.S. land market, so why would they do that? The Saudis have been they've been working hard to develop an infrastructure of independent service companies in that region that mimics the way the U.S. does it. Because if you want to lower your cost of doing business, get a whole bunch of suppliers that do the same thing and make them motivated. So I've called it it's hard to say this out loud, the de-schlumberization of the Middle East oil and gas industry, because that sector wants to have independent suppliers. But China's already got it. Russia's already got it. If you're a country with a national oil company that's pretty strong and pretty active, you bet it's over the next 5 years, 10 years, the independent has opportunities like they've never had before.
Okay, one last question, then we'll let you go. I know you've got some other things on your very tight schedule. We've seen Weatherford exit the directional drilling service market in U.S. land. We've seen a push from Schlumberger to be able to start renting out more of their equipment. I've heard word of Baker Hughes and potentially Halliburton. Do you see the business model for the major service suppliers, like you'd shown in your graph, to where the competition's very heavy in U.S. land? Do you see the bigger players just saying, you know what, we'll continue to make our big money offshore and international, and then just rent our technology here in the U.S.?
The answer is yes. It stunned me that Schlumberger would begin to make that step. But about a year ago, it became so apparent that Schlumberger did not want to be in the pressure pumping business. It didn't want to be in the frac business or the cement business, because a metric that you could use is the return on capital employed, and frac just didn't do it. What surprised me was that directional drilling or the rotary steerable business may not hit that same mark either. So if that's going to be the case, don't sell your technology, but partner up with folks to deploy it for you. Get rid of the people part, just maintain the technology and the tools part. You'll probably be okay. So I think that you are seeing that massive trend in the United States, and it will remain so until the U.S. triples in size again, and then people reverse the philosophy and come back in full force.
Well, Richard, thank you so much for your time. We do have to move on. For anybody that's looking forward to it, Richard said that this presentation, we will have this available afterwards. So either check out the IADD website or on LinkedIn. Richard, thank you once again so much for being here. You're an absolute inspiration to me, sir. And if you keep hiring Davids, feel free to hire me at some point in time. All right. So now we've got to move on to the next part. So on to the next one, we've got sorry, I'm going to look down here at my thing. We've got the session 2, emerging technologies, right? With Rival Downhole Tools, Noah Dose, Doc Gunter, the Rival Rotary Steerable Motor. So I'm going to get this video queued up for you guys here in just a second. There's a lot going on here on the screen. Some new software stuff that I'm using. No excuses. We'll get this done. Here we go. So we're going to play a video. So stay tuned, watch the video, and then any of the questions you guys got, then we'll be able to do live Q&A with the team from Rival Downhole Tools. Here we go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Gunter. I am the Chief Technology Officer of Rival Downhole Drilling Tools. I want to talk today about rotary steerable system drilling assisted with mud motors, and specifically mud motors designed to run rotary steerable systems. Ladies and gentlemen, Rival Downhole Tools is the premium provider for downhole motors, friction reduction tools, but also for engineering services. We have 400 active motors in the fleet. We providing FRT tools. The folks at Rival building and running motors since 30 years, so we have the experience and we know the history of the development of mud motors in the US and worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, motors are usually known to drive bits, but the challenge what we have now, what we're facing, we want to drive a rotary steerable system. Rotary steerable system is a 70 to 90 feet bottom hole assembly, what we screwing underneath the motor. This means we have a totally different drilling condition than what we are used on. On top of it, the performance criteria increased. 10 years ago, we were drilling 20 to 50 feet an hour. Today, with rotary steerable systems, we're drilling 200 to 250 hours. How did we do that? There is no real rotary steerable motor on the market. However, we have sealed bearing section motors, and we have mud lubricators. Both designs have their advantages and disadvantages. Rival was able to combine the advantages of both design features in one tool to create a true rotary steerable motor specifically designed to run rotary steerable systems.
So what you can see on your screen now is what we came up with after all of our engineering work. This is what we call the Rival RSM. It's the industry's first purpose-built motor for rotary steerable applications. In terms of the benefits of the motors, you can see it's equipped with a suitable pin-down connection on the bit box, available with both standard industry connections and the newer premium larger connections for extended reach work. The zero bypass system that sends all of the flow back to the drill bit after cooling the bearings is located just above that. This is what eliminates the bypass to the annulus and provides all the pressure and fluid to the rotary steerable to drive it. Above that, we've got our flex shaft designed with an integrated radial bearing and our bearing stack, which has been optimized for rotary steerable loads, both in drilling and off bottom when you're coming back out of the hole with the loads of the rotary steerable system below it. Finally, you can see our flex shaft above that, which is designed to minimize the amount of variables in the motor, obviously avoiding any seal boots to avoid the reliability issues caused by having rubber elements in the motor. Just in terms of an update with where we're at on the project, we completed all of the design work for the 5 3/8 and begun field trials. We built out a fleet of tools last year, which we've been testing in the time since. We did a significant amount of dyno work on the initial fleet to validate all of the concepts and make sure everything was working as expected. And then we moved on to field trials, which have been positive overall, running with multiple rotary steerable systems across a few different directional companies and various slim hole sizes in both the Permian and Eagle Ford. Just recently, in November 2020, our patent was finally awarded for the technology. And coming up, we look forward to trialing the motor in curve applications ahead of expanding the 5 3/8 fleet. The next motor that we'll be designing next will be the 7 1/4 for larger 8.5 and 8 3/4 inch rotary steerable work. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions from the group.
Well, thank you guys for being here today. And can you guys give us a little bit of your summary and thoughts about that project? Obviously, I'm guessing you guys are excited that you just received your patent. Are you guys muted or is it me? I'm not seeing any of your audio. Mic is not working. Man, we are having some fun with this one today. Don't worry, guys. This is the oil field industry. Things break all the time, but you know what? The best people in this industry don't quit. They never give up, and we get things fixed and we get right back on it. So we will keep working here. I'm really excited about this. It's always great to be able to see when patents get awarded. This means these guys have been working on this for quite some time. They probably had to be able to put the patent back in 2018. And guys, bear with us. You know, we are using a new software for being able to stream this so that we can provide it free. We've got over 200 and something people watching this in real time right now. It's an absolutely amazing event. Thank you so much to Rival. Thank you so much to Dynadrill. Up next, we do have Scott Dixon with NOV, the Select Shift. He's been waiting in the waiting room. I see him giving me a thumbs up a couple of times back over there. We do have good streaming. It says that one. All right. Don't worry, we will get these guys on here and we will be able to get to some of your questions. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to put them into the comment section. Rate a bit more on the seal boot design. Max weight on bit for 4 3/4. Oh, those guys have just exited off. They'll probably log back in. We'll get them back on here in just a second. Once again, thank you to Rival for even being a part of this. We really do appreciate it. This is one of those things, guys. It's really tough to be able to do this sometimes because when you're doing it live, you have to be able to stagger your guests as they come in. You can't have everybody come in all at once. This isn't Zoom where you can have like 1,000 people sitting around. It looks like they're back on. Let's see. Is the audio working? Give us a shout, guys. No. So it should be a settings button down at the bottom, and that says audio input. And then you'll have a drop down there at the bottom. When you start talking, you'll see the little green bar move. Do you guys have any headphones, like some old Apple iPhone headphones with the mic on them, those usually work really, really well. Or $60 on Amazon, you can buy this. I think it's got like 4.5 star review. Anybody that can read lips? How about this? Let's do this. You guys pause while y'all work out on getting a microphone or a heads up real quick. I'll go ahead and I'll skip to Scott. If we got some time at the back end, we'll circle back around. Jim just asked me in the private chat if I can sign. I cannot. So, like I said, we'll go ahead and bring in Scott. Scott, are you ready to go? Give me a thumbs up back there in the background, sir, if you're ready. Okay. So we'll pull these guys off. Scott, thanks for being here today. How are you, sir?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. It is all you. Let me fix the graphics and everything here. Scott, I'll let you take it away. You get your screen share up. Oh, it's gone.
Let's see here.
This is fun, guys. Don't even worry about this. We're going to be able to get this thing rolling here again.
All right. How about now? Can you see it now?
Still not yet. I don't know what happened there.
Let's see here. Share. Application window.
As soon as it. Oh, there we go, sir. All right.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and get started here. Turn this off. Then turn that to stun. Good morning, everybody. We appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm pleased to present to you NOV's newest technology in directional drilling. We call it the Select Shift. Let me just get this set up here. And we're going to show a quick little video. I'm going to talk through this, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. Today, what I want you to walk away with from today is a better understanding of how Select Shift works, what exactly it does, and the value that it can bring overall. So first of all, looking at Select Shift, today's market, it demands an innovation, and Select Shift needed to be robust. So we started out by putting it on our Series 50 platform. So what this means is NOV has a bigger, better motor that's now capable of changing its bend setting without having to trip. In vertical sections, using Select Shift with a low bend setting or straight setting, it can help reduce tortuosity and drill a more engaged hole, but you still have the ability to shift and make corrections or hold a tangent if you need to, all with real-time feedback at surface. Now we can combine sections like this vertical and curve into one run, and removing a trip not only saves time and cost, but also has a positive effect on safety, but by reducing tool handling associated with tripping in and out of hole. And then after you land the curve, if we're in a monobore situation, the driller can shift it back to straight mode and continue on drilling out into the lateral. Lateral motor drilling can be a lot higher rotary RPMs than a bend housing, can give you longer life for the bit dull, better conditions, better hole cleaning, and better hole quality. So this is Select Shift. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. The first thing I want to talk about is the overall value. How can we use Select Shift? So Select Shift, first of all, it changes the way we think about directional drilling. Our customers are looking for ways to reduce their overall costs, increase profitability. 2020 was a bad year for everybody. And we can only, as suppliers, we can only cut our prices so much to a certain level before we get to a point where we're looking for other ways to help our customers reach their goals. We need to be offering better business solutions. That's where Select Shift comes into play. So we think about this, looking at it, obviously the holy grail is to reduce trips by combining sections that are normally drilled separately. Vertical curve, curve lateral, vertical curve lateral, monobore wells. That's not all. So we're seeing improved bit life. We're seeing better dull conditions, like we said a while ago. There are sections that take 3-4 bits to get through one single vertical section, but now that we're able to drill farther with each bit, it's taken us 2 or 3 bits instead of 3 or 4 bits. Select Shift also allows us to optimize critical drilling parameters. We're seeing the ability to increase RPMs in low bend setting or straight settings, and then weight on bit and torque required to achieve better results is actually coming in lower than if we had it with our regular bent housing motors. You're also seeing, like I said, improved hole cleaning, drilling a more in-gauge hole, lower tortuosity, and a reduction in sliding percentage. These are all things that bring overall value to our clients. So, looking at the concept, what exactly does Select Shift do? Well, first and foremost, Select Shift allows a driller to change the motor's bend setting while staying downhole. Simple as that. You can rotate at higher RPMs in low bend setting than you can with a higher bend setting, or as you say, in straight mode. Let's picture a vertical section that has a softer section up top where you could drill like a house on fire, but you've got restrictions put into place with this higher bend setting on your motor because you need to slow things down. You need to make transitions or hold a tangent or even throw a build in later on. So you're restricted to one set of drilling parameters for the entire run. With the Select Shift, you can change that to a lower bend setting, take advantage of that, and by changing your drilling parameters, be able to increase your ROP, increase your drilling parameters altogether, but still have the ability to shift it to a higher bend setting for more aggressive corrections that you may need later in that same section. It also shifts and steers. It doesn't shift similar, but it steers similar to a traditional drilling motor. It's used in conjunction with a variety of ERT power sections, which that way you're not stuck with just one specific speed. You have a variety of speeds. It's also compatible with our new 7 1/4 7872. That's the SS1000. That one's going to be a game changer next year. But point is, it's compatible with a whole variety of speeds and torques and everything associated with that. And as we said a while ago, it's built on our Series 50 platform. So it is literally a bigger, beefier, better motor that we're bringing to the table. So how does Select Shift? That's on everybody's mind. Given that we're time constrained today, I'm not going to go into the full procedure of how it shifts, but I can tell you it's 100% mechanical. We change the bend settings with RPM and flow, so there's no electronics downhole to take into consideration. The time required to make a shift is about 2 to 4 minutes, and to shift from high bend to the low bend setting, we do that while you're on bottom to minimize NPT. And then to shift from low bend to high bend, we do that while making connections. One of my favorite features of the tool is we actually have a lock and hold feature that allows Select Shift to stay in the low bend setting for 8 minutes while you're making connections. So what this allows you to do, let's say you're in a vertical section or even in a lateral, and you don't want to make a shift. You don't need to make any shifts. You're just wanting to drill ahead. It'll stay in that low bend or straight setting for 8 minutes to allow you to make connections, keep on drilling ahead. But in the event that you shut down, you need to make a shift, something happens or whatever, Select Shift will default to high bend setting after 8 minutes. This guarantees you will always have directional control with the motor and not have to trip out because it got stuck in low bend or anything like that. It'll always default to the high bend setting. And then one of the questions that we get a lot of time is, how do I know what setting I'm in, if I'm in high bend or low bend? There's a differential at surface, 150 to 250 PSI, permanent signal differential at surface that tells you which one you're in, low bend or high bend. We have a couple of variations with the tool now. We have our standard configuration. That's the multi-shift tool. It's available in straight to bent or low bend to high bend. So you can do like a 1.5 to 212, or we have multiple combinations like that. And you have unlimited shifting evolutions there. You can shift it back and forth as often as you want or as little as you want. And then we also realize that there's some applications that don't necessarily require to be shifted back and forth, at least through maybe the first half of it or throughout the whole thing. So we have a lock configuration also that goes to either a single shift or a multi-shift. And what we do is the single shift tool is locked, the Select Shift tool is locked in its primary setting, low bend, high bend, whichever we want to do, until you shift the tool. At that point, we're going to increase flow rate 100 GPM over the normal drilling flow rate. That's going to shear the lock pin, and then we can shift the tool. We can either do it with a single shift option where the Select Shift will stay locked in that secondary position, or it'll go to a multi-shift, and it defaults to the standard configuration like we talked about a while ago. You get to make the choice on that. So one of the things that we're seeing is like a verticurve application where you drill with a 1.5 in locked position down to kickoff point, shear the pin, shift the tool into a higher bend setting, and then drill ahead and drill your curve. So looking at drilling dynamics, what we're seeing here, this is interesting, is the level of torque and RPM bands are much narrower in the low bend setting than the high bend. If you look at this chart, the upper section there is drilled in a 2.0 bend setting. And you can see some erratic and RPM fluctuations, and torque is also a little all over the place there as well. When you shift it to the 0 setting, everything seems to smooth out a lot better. And look at the stick slip over here as well. Stick slip goes to less than half of what it was in the 2.0 setting. So what we're seeing is basically an entire system that's much more stable in that lower system, which then again allows us to make those RPM changes and get better overall drilling efficiency. And this last slide is basically a case study that shows the more you use it, the better you get with it. What we're seeing here, this is an operator that drilled 3 wells back to back. The first one, they slid about 30% of the time. You'll notice the second well drops down to 19%. They're getting better with it. They're getting more comfortable with it. And then the third one is down to 12%. And at this point, they're very familiar with the tool. Everything's moving forward there. So that's about all I have for today. What we wanted to basically bring to you is show you the value. The Select Shift is a better business solution. What does it do? It shifts the way we think about directional drilling. And then how it works, it's a very robust mechanical design. And at that point, I will shift it back over to this. And let me know if you have any questions.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for presenting today. It's absolutely amazing technology, and we do have some questions coming in. First one was max dogleg severity you can get on the curve.
The max dogleg severity you're going to be able to get on the curve. That's going to depend on which bend setting we have in the secondary system there. And so we've been able to see, obviously we're getting 10s and 12s. And some of our testing stands, we've seen up to 17, 18 degrees per 100. And so it just depends on whether we're using a 212, a 2.0, a 225. That's one of the new settings. And then we also have a 238 coming out here at the end of the month as well. So when we employ, let's say, a 1.5 to 238, we ought to be able to throw any dogleg severity that you need to build your curve.
Awesome. Another question. I clicked it and then somebody commented, so just everything moves up real quick. How many bend settings can be pre-configured? Only 2.
So we set it from low bend to high bend or straight to bend. There are talks of doing a multiple one that's articulated with possibly 3 settings in the future. Right now, we're limited to 2 settings. And so what we'll do is we'll meet with our clients, talk about what they're trying to achieve ahead of time, and then collaborate to figure out which bend setting, which options that we have will allow them to achieve that goal.
Another question, and then we'll wrap this one up for you. Any plans for development in 8-inch motors?
Yes, that is in the plan. Obviously, 2020 kind of threw a wrench in everybody's budgets. But yes, we do have plans to look at 8-inch motors as well for this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. We do appreciate you being on the show today and presenting this technology. And thank you you went flawlessly with your audio, sir. So kudos to you. I will be sending you a Christmas card. And I should say this, guys. When is the clay shoot?
December the 4th.
That's
December 4th.
Yeah, not too far away. December 4th to be the clay shoot. Scott's one of the guys internally within the IADD that helps to be able to put that on. So thank you so much for that, sir. Do appreciate it. All right, now, guys, we have got a quick little video here from one of our sponsors here, Loditech. Let me pull this one up, and we'll be back right after this presentation.
Good morning. I'm Bill Murray with IADD, and today I'm here with Loda Mud Motor bearing. This is part of the IADD Mud Motor Technology Series in anticipation of the Mud Motor Forum. Let me introduce you to Mike Speckert and Majid Del Passan. Together they have over 5 decades of experience developing technology and products for the mud motor industry. Guys, y'all been part of several startups over your careers. What's your motivation for starting Loda Mud Motor Bearings?
Good question, Bill. You know, we do have a lot of people who make now, and we felt that there is a need for advancement in certain areas. For example, there are issues with tiles coming off of the bearing, issues with erosions, the substrate hardness, and more importantly, we thought that there's not enough focus on this product line by some of the people who are actually making it. The reason we actually started this company was because we felt we wanted to focus on a single product, radial bearings and bearing components for mud motor, and that's what the biggest motivation was. Now, Mike could explain to us a little bit about the differences in the technology and the advancements that we've made over the last few decades on this technology.
Right. So, you know, my background in this industry really started with the cloth membrane types of coatings that we developed 30 plus years ago. And for a number of decades, that was kind of the premier performance product in the business, was the matrix type of bearing. And in the last 10-15 years, we've seen an influx of carbide tile bearings that have pushed the performance envelope even further. But we felt like that there was still an opportunity to advance the cloth membrane coating technology to meet some of the performance demands that our customers require. And with Loda Mud Motor Bearings, we've done that. We've made some step change improvements in the matrix cloth type of bearing, and the result is our Loda matrix bearing, which has improved performance over previous generations. How we've done that is we've improved particle packing, loading in the coating to increase hardness, increase wear resistance. We've made some process improvements in manufacturing a product that's also allowed us to pick up some performance in the product as well. But still recognizing that there's a performance gap between the cloth-based matrix types of bearings and the carbide tile bearing, we felt like it was important for us to develop our own carbide tile bearing that would complement the cloth matrix bearing, and that the result of that is our Loda tile bearing.
One of the problems we've seen over the years with tile bearings is, of course, erosion between the tiles, and also, you know, catastrophic failure where the tile comes off, either due to the mechanical strength of the base underlying steel, or it just erodes and falls off and it's not bonded as well. How does your, you know, matrix type technology address those issues that, you know, we've historically seen with tile bearings?
Right. So there's, as you mentioned, catastrophic failure of the bearing has been a problem. Mm-hmm. The performance has gotten better as the technology has advanced, but there are still problems with erosion around the tile, as we mentioned, and also loss of the tile due to poor bond strength between the tile and the substrate, as well as just the poor mechanical strength of the underlying substrate itself. We've been able to address those two issues as well by incorporating some of the core technology that we have with the cloth membranes. By incorporating that into the tile bearing, we've achieved a product that has 100% metallurgical between the tile and the substrate. And because we have 100% metallurgical bond, it allows us to fully heat treat this bearing after coating. So we're able to restore the mechanical properties of the underlying seal back to its original condition. And that's important because you don't have to worry about poor mechanical strength and possible failure of the bearing when it's downhole.
Yeah, a lot of the infiltrated tile bearings, the steel is destroyed or rendered into the annealed condition through the infiltration process. So you can reheat treat it and restore the mechanical properties. So it can be a structural element in the mud motor where a lot of the tile bearings cannot. That's impressive. Well, I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to explain the technology and Loda mud motor bearings to the IADD. And everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, can you hear us?
No.
All right. Well, I don't know if Jim can hear us just yet, but I know that we've gotten several questions. We've got the rival guys. We've got their audio working. Good stuff here. So I can't go back to all the questions, but you guys feel free to rebel off some of them that were coming in.
Hey, David, thanks for getting us back on here. We really appreciate it. Sorry about the audio earlier. We're really excited about this new technology. During the warm up with the Dynadrill team, you guys mentioned rotary steerable versus motors. Which one's going to get the R&D dollars going forward? We really don't view them as opposing forces, and we're trying to make our motor fleet be the best set up to run with rotary steerable. Right now, about 50% of our motor hours are driving rotary steerable systems, and this new rotary steerable motor platform, I think, is going to set us up to really support directional companies who are building a business around rotary steerable drilling in the industry moving forward. So we got a couple questions from Will about compatibility with MWD. We've run MWD tools below the rotary steerable motor on every single run so far. So the BHA looks like a couple stabilizers, filter sub, and MWD, then and then a rotary steerable system below the motor.
Excellent. Yeah, I noticed you guys there in the comment section kind of going back and forth and stuff. So obviously, like, you guys just got your patent issued this month, as it was said in your presentation. So how long have you guys been working on this?
It's been about a year and a half that we've been really in the throes of it all. When Neil and I and Brad came over to work with Ashman back in 2017, it was one of the first projects we wanted to jump into. We saw the market going towards rotary steerable, and we were kind of a little bit sick of always thinking that motors couldn't be part of that. So we started working with Doc's team really early on, focusing on how we could be a value add in the rotary steerable business, and spent the last 2 years to a year and a half working on it through all the development, FEA design, and are really excited now that we're seeing the first runs happen.
So how much of the market do you see growing towards this? Do you think that there'll be other competitors that are jumping in, wanting to be able to build specific rotary steerable motors? And do you start to see that to be the lion's share of the work out there for motors?
Yes. Also, what we have seen over the last 2 years, it goes definitely in that direction. Rotary steerable systems get more reliable, get more cost efficient on land. We definitely see that, and also the availability and more players in the market. And what we did, really, mud lubricated bearings actually hold up. They're robust, they're simple. However, we always face the flow bypass, and with radial bearing wear increased on non-controllable flow bypass. And what we did, we actually implemented a sealing arrangement in the mud lubricated bearing, even that the motor is sealed, still drilling mud will lubricate and cool the mud lubricated bearing. It's actually a very simple approach, and it's doing the trick, and it's working very well for us.
Excellent. Jim, can you hear us?
Yep.
Oh, all right.
There you are, Jim.
the guys from the rival team want to thank you guys. We'll bring Scott back on and then let Jim be the one to be able to take us through here during the break period and have the discussion. So There we go.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jim, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Scott, if you can see the chat, you see there's a couple questions in there about the bit to bend compared to a conventional motor.
Right. So, like I said, we built it on the Series 50 platform. So it's got the beefier drive shaft and the universal U-joint coupling. On the, let's say the 7-inch size, they're about 64.5 inches long, which is roughly the same as our Series 36 motor with a adjustable housing. It is a little bit longer than with a fixed bend housing. And so you do have a little bit longer bit to bend there. And then on the slim hole motors, it's about 4 inches longer on that.
Okay. All right, good.
We run them on 6 3/4 and 7-inch. Have it on the 7 1/4 new one now, and then we have the 5-inch, 5 1/8 power sections as well that are basically the 0.6 and 0.8 rev per gallon motors.
Yeah. You know, when you compare these two technologies, we put you guys together kind of on purpose because the select shift is essentially an answer to a rotary steerable. Where of course with the rival motor, you're augmenting the rotary steerable performance. So you may remember that we've had a couple of forums where it was mud motors versus rotary steerables, and over the years these have certainly evolved. The performance of both has gotten better. I mean, it's almost like a good sibling rivalry, right? That the one brother tries to get better than the other brother.
Rival?
What do you? Pardon. I'm known for my puns. Sorry, but what do we feel like the technical limits could be? I don't think we've reached them yet, but for these different types of approaches, what would be the technical limits, and what are maybe some of the key limiters that you see being in place? Scott, if you want to go first.
Looking at some of the technical limitations on there, really and truly, with select shift, I don't think we've really gotten there yet to figure out how it's going to be limited. RPM can certainly be taken into consideration there. Rotary RPM, rotary speeds. When you start looking at different types of drill bits and just internal components and things like that are going to be limited. There may be some limitations on that. I don't think you're going to see the high speeds that rotary steerable can bring to the table. But the flip side to that as well is it's a non-electronic system, so I think it may be a little bit more robust in some areas that RSS may not necessarily be as robust there as well. And so we actually kind of went back and forth a little bit. It was interesting to your point. For a while, we were kind of wondering, is it a motor? It's not necessarily just a plain motor. It's not a rotary steerable either. It's somewhere in between, but it technically is a motor. And so it's just a motor that we're looking at is the next evolution in technology to take it to that next step and give our customers the ability to utilize things in a more efficient way.
Yeah. No, and Doc, what would your take on that be?
We have quite different view here at that.
Yep.
What happened over the years, I mean, look, we were able to drill 25, 30,000 feet before. But what we are able today now, we were able to complete. We have completion tools. We can complete 25,000 to 28,000 foot laterals, which allows us to drill more laterals, and where the rotary steerable system definitely has advantage compared to motors. What we also believe, where do we go? I don't know if it's 3, 5, 10 years, but we will talk then not about motors and rotary steerable systems anymore. We will talk about the drilling systems. We will talk about modular systems. A modular system, as we see it, the future, we will have a rotary steerable model. We have a power section model, which is a motor. We have an MWD, LWD module, and we will combine it. We also talking about a percussion module, So in other words, what we see in the future, we will put a bottom hole assemblies together which will fit the purpose. If this is rotary steerable, if this a power section, if this a percussion unit, MWD, LWD, you name it. This is how we see the future. Eventually, the bent motor will be gone. This is as we see it. However, the motor will be there. Motors will be there. You generate the energy directly on the bent with the motor, and that is what we are focusing on.
Okay. That's some good points. Noah, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, like we said in the preface, we're excited to be pushing both sides of the dialogue here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're motor guys at our hearts, and we're glad to see that motors are part of the rotary steerable conversation going forward. We're here to serve our directional drilling company partners, and so we think we'll have a lot of great opportunities to work with directional drilling companies who focus on bent technology still and want to go out there and put in some slides and show everybody how it's done still, but then also serve some of the higher tech, higher tiered DD companies who are focused on bringing out new rotary steerable systems and pushing the envelope in that manner. So really, I think it's a great time for the motor industry right now. You can see with both select shift at NOV, with the RSM here at Rival, there's exciting new technology coming out that's pushing the way we use motors in ways we haven't seen really change in the last decade. So it's a good time to be in motors, even though it's a tough time in the industry.
Yeah.
I can agree with you.
Yeah. I remember when rotary steerables first came out, everybody was predicting the demise of not only mud motors, but the directional driller as a whole. You're just going to push a button and the well was going to drill itself. That hasn't quite proven to be the case just yet. And,
Not yet.
And motors, as we've talked about with the rivalry, have certainly upped their game as well. I think, just looking how strong some of these motors are. I mean, we've essentially gone from having a Volkswagen Beetle to a Lamborghini, or maybe a Mack truck might be actually more analogous to that with the power and the requirements. So, and that's why we have sessions like this, to really kind of explore where some of these things could go. Because I agree with you guys. I don't think we've met the limits yet, and I think there's still lots of innovation and room for growth. So,
Jim, let me add you something to it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in 2016, we had 2,000 rigs. In 18, we had 1,000 rigs. Right now, we have 280 or 290 rigs.
Yeah.
And I personally, and this is my opinion, we will not go over 400, 450 rigs. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what and we're drilling almost the same footage we did before, which I claim technology prevails.
Yeah.
Technology is for steering purposes. And that's really the fact, is the rotary steerable system.
Right.
But the rotary steerable system needs to be driven, and needs to be driven reliable. And that's where the motor people come in.
Right.
That's how we believe in it.
Yeah, that's been one of the challenges, Doc, is we're essentially drilling ourselves out of jobs.
That is correct.
We've gotten so efficient that, wells that were taking 40 days to drill just 3 or 4 years ago are now at 10 and under.
That is correct.
Consistently. And so we have to address these things. We have some sessions this afternoon talking about some of the, the business models and so forth, of what's going to need to take place. And but it is a rapidly changing industry. And I think the more communication we have, the better off we can adapt to it. Doc, you had said something. I'm going to mention deal we were just talking about this the other day. Is longer better? Are there efficiencies or gains to be made with longer laterals in the Permian? And in many places, you're looking at about a 10,000 foot lateral. I wouldn't say that's the technical limit, but that's what most people are doing. If you go up into the Utica and Marcellus, they're a little bit longer. That's where a lot of the records, at least the North American records, have been drilled in the 20 to 25,000 foot range. So we are in the early stages of discussing about having a forum that does it make sense to go longer and make that something that's comprehensive, not just from a drilling capability standpoint, but can we complete the wells? Can we produce the wells? It does the incremental benefit offset the additional cost that it goes into. So I think these are some exciting enabling technologies that allow us to have that discussion. Because I think technically now we can drill those 20, 25,000 foot laterals efficiently. And these types of technologies help to get that in. So
you're absolutely right. To give you an idea, we're also supplying tools for workover application, vibrating tools, and small tools. Just to let you know, as we speak, we're milling 200 blocks. I mean, 5 years ago, nobody even would think about that.
No.
It's a 20,000 feet, 200 bridge blocks. Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, when we had 10 to 15 5 years ago, we were dancing. Then we were 50, we were dancing 90, and now we're talking about 200.
Yeah.
And all companies and operators think that is the way to go. Platform drilling allows that to do it. We have the technology for the completion, which definitely pushed us drilling people the same way. They can complete it, they ask for more.
I could see that. You know, I could see a lot of these unconventional plays going towards the super pads, which would be analogous to the big platforms offshore. So I can certainly see that coming into play. Scott, did you have anything to add?
Well, I was going to say we've seen an uptick in longer laterals here recently as well. Your 3 mile laterals in places like the Bakken are becoming a lot more common as well. You know, things like the agitator, we're seeing dual agitator systems being picked up in order to run these longer lateral sections, where they'll pick up a regular tool and put it in the lower section, drill out to 10,000 feet, and then they'll drop another one further back at around 8,000 feet back from the bit, and then keep on drilling out to knock out a 3 mile lateral. And we're seeing more and more of those pick up. But to your point earlier, I absolutely think it's something that we should probably talk about, looking at the economics of it there. But, you know, when we start looking at the economics of this, one of the things like SelectShip brings, you do quick math. I mean, anytime you can save a bit trip, you're talking a $40,000, $50,000 savings right there, just between your time, your equipment needed, an extra motor, a bit, and anything else that goes into that equation. It doesn't take long for that money to add up. So with the advent of longer laterals, combining sections that are typically drilled together, I think that we can come at this thing from a two-pronged standpoint. Somebody had put a note up there earlier looking at the economics of rotary steerable versus motor. I really think that going forward in the future, there's going to be room and application for both types of tools going forward. And it's really going to boil down to, you know, what exactly the customer is trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
hey,
that's great.
David's back.
So David just magically appeared on the screen. I think that's your cue, guys.
Well, real quick, guys, both give us what's the best ways to be able to get in touch with you, because obviously there are still a lot of comments and questions that are going on in the comment section. So both of you guys, let us know what's the best way to be able to get in touch with you post internet interview here.
Yeah, we'll go ahead.
We'll throw our email addresses into the chat so everybody has them. And if you need tools, dispatch@rivaldt.com. We'll get you taken care of.
Same. I'll drop my email into the chat as well, scott.dixon@nov.com. And I'll put my phone number on there as well. Thank you guys so much for having us today. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Same here. Thanks guys.
For being on board.
Thank you, guys. All right. So next up, let's hold on to click some of these buttons here. Next up, Jim, we've got the session 4 applications. We've got Scientific with Corey Langford about instrumented mud motors, who we're going to be bringing on in just a second. And then with Scout Downhole, Chad Friedman with the Cam Scout. So this is our next 30-minute thing. Anything you want to say, Jim?
This will be an interesting session as well. You know, the Cam is going to be, another alternative to these drilling things. But the instrumented mud motor, to give Corey a little lead in, he's actually an LWD guy. So don't hold that against him, you know, all the motor folks that are online. But he's an LWD. I know that's not going to bother you at all, is it, David? So we're looking at the motor as a platform for providing additional information, particularly closer to the bit. So I think you're going to enjoy both of these presentations going forward.
I am absolutely looking forward to them. I know a lot of these individuals, and so being able to see them present anytime is always great. So first up, we've got Corey Langford with Scientific Drilling talking about instrumented mud motors. Corey, thank you for being on the show today and being here with us. All right. Oh, Jim's off. Corey, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, David. Can you hear
all
me?
Right. All right. I've got you. Are you sharing a screen?
I did just start sharing my screen. So
I'm behind the curve. All right. I will jump off, and the floor is yours, sir. Thank you for being here.
All right. Well, thank you very much, David. Thank you, IADD, for giving us the opportunity to present our instrumented motor technology. As Jim mentioned, I'm the LWD technical advisor here at Scientific Drilling, and we're going to be discussing a couple different offerings that we currently offer for instrumented motors. So before I kind of jump into the details on the different offerings that we have, just wanted to kind of give you all a timeline to establish how long we've been in the business for instrumented motors. So back in 2008, we actually launched our smart motor, which was one of the first near bit instrumented motors. And what that delivered was a high accuracy azimuthal gamma, continuous inclination, RPM, and vibration measurements about 9 feet from the bit. I'll go to a little bit more detail on the next slide on that particular offering. But in 2016, so about 4 years ago, we came out with our bit sub, which was one of the shortest at-bit measurement drilling subs. And it also provided a continuous inclination, a higher resolution azimuthal gamma, drilling dynamics, all of that 16 inches from the bit. So going from 9 feet with our near bit option down to 16 inches for our at-bit option. And just recently earlier this year, we launched our new smart motor. So basically we integrated the bit sub electronics into the mandrel of our Titan 22 mud motors. So what that does is it gives you the great at bit measurements integrated into the motor. So moving on to the smart motor, this was the original smart motor. So again, as I mentioned before, we're looking at about 9 feet for the bit to sensor distance. And basically how it operates is we have an electronic payload that houses the azimuthal gamma and inclination sensors. And we utilize a YSI, what we call YSI. It's basically an EM short hop telemetry between the electronic payload in the motor and our NWD system. This EM short hop telemetry is actually capable of transmitting signal in both oil and water-based mud. And then as we're rotating the motor, so the drill string had to have been rotating, we're actually providing an up and down azimuthal gamma ray measurement. And then in addition to the azimuthal gamma ray, we actually provide a continuous inclination measurement for, early monitoring of your motor yields. One of the things that, about this particular motor was it was power section limited. So you just see here on the right-hand side of the screen, the different motor sizes that we had and the different motor configurations or power sections that we had available. One of the things we did like was the bit to bend didn't really change. We were able to keep that shorter bit to bend, but we were limited on what power sections we were able to run with this particular setup. So some of the different applications for running instrumented motors. One of the main ones is, say you have a tight geosteering window. So again, this came out in 2008. So a lot of the different reservoirs that we were targeting back then were, your coal bed methanes, your SAG-D, somewhere where you didn't want to, you needed to identify when you drilled out a zone and make a immediate correction in the inclination to bring it back to the target. So for a tight geosteering window, this is where instrumented motors really become into play. In addition, geologic structure, when you're not very certain of faults or bedding dips, this is key, having the measurements closer to the bit. That way you're able to react quicker. Dog leg minimization. So again, it does provide a continuous inclination measurement near the bit or at the bit. So you're actually able to see any type of push up or down and actually correct for that before you do throw a big kink in your lateral. In addition to that, if you do have maybe a coring or casing point selection where you don't want to drill too far in or past that point, this is ideal having the IADD measurements there. So I mentioned before, about 4 years ago, we came out with this at-bit sub. So basically, it's a short integrated sensor package. We're looking at about 29 inches total length for this collar. And it basically provided some of the same measurements that our original smart motor did, but they were upgraded. So for the azimuthal gamma ray, we had to be up, and it was basically just up and down while we were rotating with the original smart motor. With this bit sub, since we're running it actually below the motor and above the bit, so it's actually fit in between there. If we're flowing on it, it's going to be rotating. So we're always getting azimuthal gamma ray and inclination measurements. And your inclination measurements below the bend of the motor, you're going to see instantaneous monitoring of your motor yield. So you can actually see how much yield you're getting out of your motor. That way you're not overshooting your targets or drilling out of zone by sliding too much or not enough. In addition, there's also the bit RPM measurement. So again, we're monitoring the RPM below the motor, not just of the drill string, but we're actually getting a true RPM measurement of the motor, of the bit, I'm sorry. And one of the great things about it is it is power section independent. It is a collar that fits below the motor, so we can run it essentially with any of our, or any power section motor. One of the things though is a 29-inch collar does seem short, but it does actually extend the bit to bend length considerably. So we were kind of limited on what kind of bend angle that we could run, with this particular collar below the motor and its pin-in regular connection. So you can kind of see here on the bottom left side of the screen, we do a lot of pre-well modeling to determine, what the maximum bend angle is, what the maximum dog leg it can rotate through. That way, to ensure we're not exceeding any type of bending stresses on this this pin-in connection of the top of the bit sub collar. So again, this short 29-inch collar contains batteries, azimuthal gamma ray, continuous inclination, vibration RPM, and then also the Y-size short hop or EM short hop transmission. So this is kind of the latest and greatest. This we came out earlier this year. We're calling it the new smart motor. And basically what we're doing is we're integrating the bit sub sensor electronics into the bottom of the into the mandrel of our motor. So basically we're extending the mandrel to where we can actually fit those electronics in there. And basically what that does is there's a lot of pros to this. It shortens the length of the bit sub. So before it was 29, now it's only 23 additional inches to the bit to bend. So we have a decreased bit to bend length. And then, so what that does is we can actually increase the motor bend angles. So, whereas kind of before with the bit sub collar, we were kind of limited to a 2-degree angle or less. Now we can take that further because we're eliminating that pin-in connection at the top of the bit sub. And that allows us to run higher bend angles, which in turn, leads to higher build rates. And then we can also increase the maximum drill string RPM. So, potentially leading to higher ROP as well. So just kind of this graphic here on the right just kind of shows, our new smart motor with the extended mandrel that we can put the bit sub electronics in. So we're still keeping that same bit to sensor distance of less than 2 feet from the bit. We're shortening the bit to bend as when you compare to just the standard motor configuration with the bit to bit or bit sub collar below it. We're shortening it about 6 inches. So again, it shortens the effective length to only 23 inches. So here we have just a traditional log. This is what you're basically going to be getting from a traditional MWD gamma ray or MWD tool, that's usually placed above the motor. You're going to have your total gamma ray here in green. You're going to have potentially a continuous inclination measurement, which is what we see in the red dots. And then we have our static survey inclination from the MWD tool as the black dots. So that's pretty much standard what you're going to see. And then basically what you're going to see with our new smart motor is this. I mean, we're going to have, in addition to your MWD gamma ray that's 30 to 40 feet back, we're going to have an at-bit gamma ray, total gamma ray measurement from the bit sub. We're going to have a continuous inclination at the bit, as well as sliding and static inclinations that the tool is actually taking in different conditions. We're going to have our surface RPM and then also bit RPM, as I mentioned before, and then our azimuthal gamma ray. So again, for real-time applications, we could either do up, down, left, or right, and then even a 16 bend and recorded. So basically what this log is showing is that we're cutting up section here where it looks like a smile on the image. We're traveling fairly parallel with the dip, and then we're cutting down section. And basically this dip reversal is caused by a slide in the down direction. So we can just see here this continuous inclination slightly trending up. We put in a slide down for direction, for inclination, and then you can see that we cut back into our target zone. So again, this is intelligent decision making with our new smart motor. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show today, as far as our instrument and motor offerings. You can see here just kind of the website that we have here listed if you're looking for some more information on our LWD offerings, and my email address below. If you do have some questions, feel free to reach out directly to me or any of the representatives from Scientific Drilling.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. We do have a couple of minutes before the next presentation. I want to fire off as many questions to you as I can. Any limitations for inclination measurements greater than 90 degrees?
No, sir. We've done inclinations over 90 degrees, so there is no limitation there.
All right. Next one. Are you seeing azimuth when sliding?
The only azimuth that we'll see is whenever we do get a static survey for our azimuth. So I mean, we are working on like a trending baseline kind of azimuth reading. We do have a lot of steel right next to the bit sub, which does affect that measurement. So we should be able to see how the azimuth is trending with the set of magnetometers and accelerometers in the tool, but we currently don't have that available today.
All right. Keep doing this lightning round here with you. What is the battery capacity of this sub in hours?
It's going to be about 300 hours for the battery capacity on a brand new set of batteries in the bit sub. Excellent.
Are you measuring torque also?
No, we're basically just measuring we don't have any downhole weight on bit or torque on bit measurements in the sub. We just have our triaxial vibrations, so axial, lateral, and torsional vibrations.
And then, is it suitable for hot holes? I just want to say real quick, thanks, Will Moritz and Dimitri are just like firing them off in the comment section. So thank you guys for that.
So for our hot hole offering, the specs say 300 degrees. We have seen some instances where we've taken it over that. The electronics are actually rated to 329, but the specs do show 300 degrees. But we've had instances where we've taken it hotter than that. So, and that's very hot. Sorry.
Here's the one. Can you run the smart motor without running MWD?
We can. We just won't get any real-time data from it. So basically what we have to have is that MWD tool above the motor that we transmit the data to. So the bit sub transmits through EM short hop to the MWD tool, and then the MWD is what transmits to surface, whether we use mud pulse telemetry or electromagnetic telemetry.
So I just want to say we've got, so Yanni says great. Blaine Como says great discussion. Oops, clicked the wrong one. Lee House say good job, Corey. Let's see if we had any other questions. Any last words or best way? I know you put your email up there, but any last words from you guys there at Scientific?
Yeah, no, we just appreciate this opportunity. We're kind of seeing this trend of more and more operators asking for this azimuthal gamma ray option. And, it's sort of becoming a requirement for some of these special projects that they're, looking to start up here at the beginning of the year. So we're real excited about what we have to offer, in addition to the azimuthal gamma ray, but our at-bit measurements as well. So thank you again for the time to talk about it.
Well, Corey, thank you for being on the show today. We do appreciate it, and look forward to hearing more out of you guys in the near future. All right, guys, up next, we've got a quick video from Scout Downhole about the Cam Scout. So we'll do this one, and then once it's done, just like before, we'll have the people from Scout be able to answer some of your questions. So here we go.
Hello, and thank you for your time today. My name is Chad Fedema. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Scout Downhole. Today I will be discussing our latest drilling motor technology. The demand to deliver top performance consistently and cost effectively has pushed the drilling motor industry to new and historic limits. The technologies available for drilling wells has been expedited over the last several years with massive upgrades to power sections, drill bits, rigs, drill pipe connections, and so on. This goes along with demand for deeper and more challenging wells. Advancements in some drilling technologies has assisted in completing these difficult wells, but often at increased cost along with higher risk. The need for drilling motors to push the boundaries and deliver the latest objectives requires designers to look at different methods or options for drilling motors. Some of the challenges required for drilling motors are having consistent build rates while allowing higher rotary speeds from surface. The patented Cam Scout or compound angle motor consists of an internal bend bearing assembly timed with an external bend housing. This allows for higher build rates with a low degree external bend while sliding and permitting high surface RPM in rotary mode. Some of the highlights and benefits achieved from this technology are better hole quality while achieving higher ROP. The external bend assists with steerability and tool face control, reduce energy loss due to low degree external bend on the motor, and reduce cyclic fatigue compared to higher degree bend motors. The simplistic design of the Cam Scout uses standard radial bearings and thrust bearings that are common in conventional drilling motors. The patented HTK transmission and driveline components are taken from existing and proven Scout downhole motor technology. Manufacturing processes and fixtures had to be implemented to manufacture the components that allow the internal tilt to be machined accurately and efficiently. By using existing technology, the design validation process was achieved rapidly. The robust design of the Cam Scout allows this lower end to be coupled to any power section available on the market today or in the foreseeable future. Coupled with additional stabilization, the Cam Scout can yield exceedingly high build rates with an extremely low external bend angle. This allows the Cam Scout to be utilized in different sections of the well profile while employing the same configuration, meaning vertical, curve, and lateral drilled with one tool setup. Small adjustments to stabilization or bend angle will reach optimal drilling configurations for a given formation or region. As seen in the table to the left and the graph on the right, projected build rates are much higher than a typical conventional drilling motor. These build rate projections are calculated with the dual stabilized Cam Scout. This performance sheet shows the Cam Scout ran in a vertical, curve, and lateral application. The Cam Scout was utilized on 3 wells and performance was plotted against 2 offset wells using conventional drilling motors with 1.83 degree bends. This shows the Cam Scout delivering consistently on all 3 wells. The objective was to complete the vertical, curve, and 1,000 feet of lateral in one run. This was achieved while increasing the ROP in the vertical section by an average of 23%. These 3 samples are taken from the same 3 wells as on the previous slide. The regions in blue are the surface RPM, while the red, orange, and brown lines for each graph are the dogleg severity points throughout the well. While specific roadmaps were followed to optimize the vertical section, the customer was able to rotate faster at surface and achieve consistent dogleg severity of 10 to 12 degrees with 60 to 70% average sliding. This is a perfect example of how the Cam Scout delivers consistency and challenges the limits set by standard conventional drilling motors. Another successful performance run pointing out the superior dogleg severity response by the 1.25 degree Cam Scout. In the graphs on the right, you can see the comparisons against a 1.83 degree conventional motor, where the 1.25 degree Cam Scout yielded higher build rates of 13.5 degrees consistently throughout the curve. To wrap up this quick presentation, I would like to mention the Cam Scout is currently available in 7 7/8, 8.5, and 8 3/4 inch hole size. Additional hole sizes will be available very soon. The focus will be on slim hole applications. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to ask any questions regarding the Cam Scout technology discussed in this presentation.
Well, Chad, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. I keep saying that over and over, but it's the truth. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to be here.
Thank you very much.
We did get a question here. So during the video, for Cam Scout motors, can we get the spec sheet? Is it a commercialized or is it still in field test mode?
It is commercialized for the 7/7/8 up to 8 3/4 inch hole, and I'll put my email on there. You can reach out to me and I can get you the spec sheets.
Excellent. We've also got another one here. I didn't get to, oh, it doesn't even pull it all the way up on the screen. Oh no. All right, guys, you got to ask shorter questions. I didn't realize this software was going to do this. Usually it'll go full screen. So the question was differential sticking with high bend settings of a PDM motor is a major problem while dropping the angle. So what do you think? What is drilling practice to overcome this issue?
Well, we are an advocate of dropping the bend angle on motors, and that really started with shorter bit to bends and trying to achieve what we were doing with historic longer bit to bend motors. So this is just another step in that direction to try and reduce that bend angle and hopefully remove some of that dysfunction that we do see with the higher bend angle motors. If we can achieve with through stabilization and internal tilted mandrel, what we typically would use a really high bend angle motor, the dysfunction just associated from trying to drill an oversized hole and really bending that motor down hole will be removed from the process that's occurring with the dysfunction from the high bend angle motors.
So we got another question here. A good one. This one from Brian Dugan. Is it like a point the bit RSS except sliding, just one angle or straight plus angle?
There is an internal tilt and an external bend on the motor. So it is somewhat like a tilted point the bit RSS. It's not actually bending the internal shaft. The shaft is manufactured inside the housing on an angle through the radial bearings. So it's a combination of point the bit and your standard external bent motor. But we can reduce the external bend because we are tilting the bit slightly coming out of the bearing assembly.
So what would you say the biggest advantage to being able to run a motor like this is?
What we've seen so far is increased surface RPM, and that's really helped the penetration rate from what we've seen. And then when we do have to slide, we have the capability to do quick slides, especially in laterals, and we can get the higher build rates. We recently did a lateral where we did run a 1 1/4 and it was stabilized and it was giving us 17 degrees per 100. But when they wanted to rotate, we could go up to 100 degrees or 100 RPM with that motor.
Wow. All right, another question here from Dimitri. Does the internal tilt design put any restrictions on rotary RPM you can apply? Obviously, I'm thinking surface rotary.
Yeah, surface rotary RPM. Right now, we are with 1 1/4 and below. We'll go up to 140 RPM, and then above that, and we are putting out some 1.5 degrees. But these are slick motors, more for the curve, and if they're used in the lateral, we would reduce that down to 120 RPM. So, from a conventional motor, it's a pretty big step. In some cases, 40 to 60% increase in surface RPM.
So here we got another question. This is actually from a drilling engineer over at Parsley, Kay Jackson. Does the internal tilt reduce the max weight on bit?
No, it doesn't. We actually utilize the existing thrust bearings from our other technologies, and we use existing radial bearings as well. So there is no change to the load on the bearings. What we do see, because we tilt that mandrel, is we have to adjust how we load the radial bearings, and that was part of the manufacturing process because there is a little bit more stress on that mandrel with the internal tilt, but a lot of that is removed by reducing that external bend. It does act a little bit different than a typical conventional motor, but as far as load capacities, we can handle as much weight on bit as a conventional motor.
All right, so we got one here from Travis. From what you've seen so far, does the internal drive at an angle shorten the life of the drivetrain maintenance intervals? We almost got it all in there.
So yeah, the life of the drivetrain actually is increased due to less bending on the transmission of the motor. We're not pushing a high bend externally through the motor. So we do have a compound angle inside of this, and it typically is less angle than a conventional motor between the two drive components, the bearing mandrel and the transmission. So we reduce that bend a little bit, so the longevity of the transmission and drive components does increase.
All right, so this next question is kind of a lob over to you, because I know who the person is that's asking this question. Can CAM use IntelliScout internals, real-time near-bit inclination and RPM measurements from a Stephen Jones watching on YouTube?
Yes, the CAM Scout can be utilize the IntelliScout internal, so we can get near-bit measurements from this motor as well in real time, hop to the MWD.
So can you talk about that a little bit further? Because obviously with Steve Jones being a part of y'all's team and the Sanvian group, how much did that downhole data play a role in the design and development of the new Cam Scout?
The Cam Scout, it was a major input for the design of the tool, and these were the sensors in record mode. So the first few runs, the motor was loaded with 5 sensors, top sub bit box, and then we had sensors in transmissions in the rotor as well as in the thrust housing of the motor to assist us with what we were trying to develop and to speed up development and see what kind of loads and vibrations were going through this motor throughout the design phase. Now we've gone back with the standard cam, has the 2 sensors, in the bit box and the top sub. So we are getting that information, but now we have the capability to introduce the IntelliScout into the cam, so we can have real-time information, inclination, RPM, vibration, right near down to the bit. We're about 10 feet from the bit on that IntelliScout sensor.
Was there anything that just really stood out to you while doing that design process, where you're able to look at the data, obviously being able to look at things that were happening, that just stands out to you during that design and build process?
Yeah, well, there's definitely some differences with the information we had on conventional motors and what we were seeing going on in the industry, and then comparing that to how this motor was operating downhole and some of the dysfunctions, and reducing that dysfunction actually with this reduced bend angle on the outside. Now, what it did help us was monitor temperatures throughout the tool, and then HFTO that can be induced through a drilling motor, and that helped us ensure we put the right loading through that tilted mandrel in the right spot, and adjusted our radial bearings as required. The sensors really helped us hone in on that with some of the stick slip and backlash that was happening internally as the bit was stopping and driving the drill string backwards. We could see that with the sensors and really assist us to increase or decrease strength in different areas of the motor.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. So I got one last question for you. Is there a specific bit recommendation for running this service? From Bo Jones. Bo, thanks for the question.
No, not to date. We wanted to encompass essentially what you would run with a conventional motor, and then compete a little bit with some of the higher technologies that are out there that are drilling these longer laterals. So no, we don't put a restraint on any of the bits. I think the longest gauge bit we ran to date through the curve is a 8-inch gauge, and we were still able to achieve the build rates required.
Excellent. Well, Chad, thank you so much for being here. I know you'll probably stick around here in the comment section, or at least somebody from, we know at least one person from the scout teams there. So thank you guys. If y'all have any more questions, feel free to throw them in there. And what's the best way to be able to get a hold of you and the team over there, Chad?
Yeah, I'll put my email address up in the chat here, and you can always go to the website on Scout Downhole and communicate through us. I'll put my phone number up there as well.
Well, I hope Miles and Sheldon, Danette, obviously Steve's watching. Big thank you out to you guys. I still really do appreciate all of the people over there at the Scout and Turbo Drill team. So, Chad, thanks for being on. All right, guys. Moving on to the next one. So we've got the 12 o'clock hour. We've got session 5 as a sponsor highlight, Dynadrill and Gerard Johnson. So we're going to go ahead and pull up. They've got a little video, so we're going to watch the video, and then they will be on to be able to do a discussion. And so they're on from 12 to 12:30. All right, guys, let's see here. I've got to find all my buttons here. This one's actually a little bit longer video, so I've got to play local video, open source. Thank you guys for bearing with us here today. We've had a couple of technical difficulties, but nothing we can't overcome because we are an oil-filled organization. We can do all things here. Let's pull that one up. There we go. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump off the screen. Then we're going to play this, and then you'll have the Dynadrill team, Gerard Johnson, will be coming back out. He was the one that opened the show today, so thank them for being here. All right, here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gerard Johnson, and I am the product champion for Dynadrill. And today I'd like to introduce you to Dynapower XP, our new high-power motor elastomer. But before we talk about the elastomer itself, I think it's important that we understand the market and why the industry needs Dynapower XP today. In looking at today's market, we know that motors continue to be used in over 50% of all downhole drilling applications. And if we look at the failures of these motors, we'll see that over half of the motors fail due to the poor performance and degradation of the elastomer itself. And these failures can cost you up to $40,000 in losses per section drilled. So knowing this, we challenged our engineering team to develop an elastomer which has increased durability and improved power output. And from that, we created Dynapower XP, the newest elastomer in our Dynapower family.
On a 328,000 square feet facility in Katy, Texas, Dynadrill produces a broad range of motor power sections that withstand the most demanding drilling applications. Included in the power section is a high-performing elastomer, developed right from our lab, that delivers both reliability and strength. With optimized chemical properties, the Dynapower motor elastomer family works in a wide range of applications to deliver long-lasting durability without compromising power output. The Dynapower HR elastomer has been a staple of Dynadrill for many years and is proven effective in many applications, especially those requiring high torque. Its high recovery shape factor enables the elastomer to maintain its fit around the rotor, providing reliable and consistent torque throughout the entire run. As a premium offering suitable for harsh environments, the Dynapower XR elastomer is engineered for highly abrasive and high-temperature conditions. It has 8 times more abrasion resistance and is 20% more durable than conventional elastomers. And because it's optimized for high-temperature environments, the Dynapower XR elastomer enables you to drill deeper and longer intervals. For applications that require high power output, the Dynapower XP elastomer delivers more power per stage, so you can drill faster and reduce your time downhole. The elastomer enables you to shorten the length of your BHA to improve dogleg capabilities in complex well geometries. With triple the fatigue life and large operating temperature window, the elastomer also minimizes stress and heat transfer while drilling long intervals. Dynapower elastomers are bonded onto the stator using our cutting-edge adhesive compound for added durability over long motor runs. By maintaining high performance throughout the run, Dynapower elastomers boost ROP and give you greater confidence to reach TD without motor failure. Quality, reliability, and productivity. Dynadrill, delivering power that lasts.
All right, excellent video.
Dynapower XP allows you to generate 250 psi per stage, providing more power than a conventional elastomer. This also allows you to shorten your BHA for complex well geometries. In the lab, we use abrasion tests to directly compare the abrasion resistance of Dynapower XP to conventional elastomers. In this test, we proved that Dynapower XP has 30% better abrasion resistance than standard elastomers. This means that Dynapower XP can be used in high torque and challenging environments. Using different lab tests, we can also compare the recovery shape factor of Dynapower XP to conventional elastomers. The recovery shape factor is the ability of the elastomer to maintain its fit in different fluids and temperatures. So how does this benefit you? Well, this means that the elastomer is able to maintain its fit around the rotor and maintain a consistent power output throughout the entire interval. Dynapower XP has a better recovery shape factor in every temperature and in every fluid, be it air, water, or oil. Using our proprietary motor modeling software, we have also been able to show Dynapower XP to have 3 times longer life than conventional elastomers while operating at the same differential pressures. Now that we've talked about the technology itself, let's talk about a few case studies to highlight some real-world examples. Our first case study is from Martin County, Texas. During this run, we used an 8-inch power section to drill the top hole section. As you can see on the chart on the right, the Dynapower XP run is highlighted in blue, while the offsets are highlighted in gray. And the important thing to note here is that, as you can see, the performance was much, much better than the previous offsets. We had 17% improvement in footage drilled and over 60% improvement in ROP. Not only that, but we saw only 0.005 of an inch measured wear on the elastomer itself after the run. Our second case study is taken from North Dakota, where we went into a slim hole section averaging about 10,000 feet drilled. Now, again, as you can see, Dynapower XP is highlighted in blue, while the offsets are highlighted in gray. And the important thing to note on this example is that not only were we able to see over a 30% improvement in ROP, but we also were drilling in temperatures approaching 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're giving you the performance that you need in very extreme environments. In our last case study, we wanted to compare a conventional power section lined with Dynapower XP against a thin wall power section lined with a competitor elastomer. Now, as we know, thin wall power sections are known for having great power output and high torque as well. But they come with a high cost of being able to maintain a fleet for a very, very specific application. So we wanted to test Dynapower XP to see if we can give our customers the same performance while allowing them to maintain an agile tool fleet. And in looking at the power curve shown here, we see that the performance is identical between the Dynapower XP elastomer and a thin wall power section lined with a competitor elastomer. Today, Dynapower XP has drilled over 200,000 feet downhole. The elastomer is available worldwide, as we have manufacturing centers in Houston, Canada, and Dubai. So we're ready to support your needs, whether they be in the Eastern or Western Hemisphere. And also remember that in addition to Dynapower XP, we also have Dynapower XR for high wear applications and Dynapower HR for high torque applications. So whatever your challenge, we have a solution, and that solution is Dynapower.
All right, thank you guys there. Let me bring in Gerard. Thank you. Jim's going to be the one firing off the questions, and then Mike, I'll let you guys take it over.
Hi guys, thanks for having us.
Glad to have you guys on board. Thanks.
Hey.
So from you're seeing these increases in performance. I mean, what has been the uptake of some of these things? Are people willing to try these to get them out?
Yes, sir, definitely. What we're seeing in the industry today is people are improving their lower ends, specifically with their transmissions. With the higher rated transmissions, they're looking for a higher rated differential pressure power section. So we're able to provide that in different sizes. There's a lot of demand from today, 8 1/4, all the way down to 5 1/4. We see a huge today.
And it's really focusing, as we've talked about a lot throughout the conference, on fit for purpose applications. So I think it really depends on what the customer is looking for. And then that specific elastomer, we use that for that, right? So we have a family that allows us to diversify solutions for different customers.
Are most of the users fitting bits to this type of performance characteristics that you're seeing in the motor?
Yeah, so I'll just say this. I'll say that we do have obviously the power section is independent of the bit, but you can optimize your performance by putting the right bit with the power section. Through Dynadrill and through Smith Bits, we do have a software known as iPower, which we can use to actually model the downhole simulation and performance, which uses the Smith Bits ideas modeling simulation, where we can correlate Smith Bits to Dynadrill power sections. So that's one potential way to incorporate the two different technologies. But of course, Dynadrill is not specific to Smith or any other big company.
Right, right. Do you see there being a demand for that type of modeling service? I mean, obviously in some specific applications with some planning time, you have that opportunity to do that. Do you see that as an enhancement that can be offered by Schlumberger to these particular areas?
So long term, I do. I think that, and I've sat in on some of the other conferences in the previous months where we talked a lot about recording devices and modeling and simulations. And so I think that that is one of the things that we can leverage as a company, as an overall company, as Schlumberger, is having different arms that we can leverage from a performance standpoint, of course, with Dynadrill and Smith. So yes, I do see that as an advantage, but I think it's still a growing industry. So today, modeling is not used nearly as much as our standard motor practices.
Right. There's a couple questions here. Do you know that the elastomer is damaged downhole real time? Are you seeing indications of that back on the surface?
There's a couple ways you can see that your elastomer is damaged. First, the obvious is if you're getting rubber back across the shakers, you know that you're.
That's always a bad sign.
Yeah, you've obviously chunked somewhere throughout the power section. Another instance is if you start to see increased stalling when you're following the same drilling practices that you've been following all along, and you suddenly start to stall. It could either be the bit or your power section has been worn.
Right. Okay. There's a kind of a corollary question to that. What is the lifespan of the elastomer in circulation hours? Obviously, that's a broad question, not taking into account downhole considerations, but are you seeing an increase in the life expectancy of the elastomer?
So I'll let Mike take the field aspect, but I can tell you from a modeling and simulation standpoint in the lab tests that we've done, we've seen 3 times improvement in the fatigue life of the elastomer itself. And so Mike probably has a better examples from out in the field.
Yeah, like you said, it all depends on the drilling environment. A lot of companies have cut back on costs when it comes to their drilling fluids. So you're going to see a lot higher solids in your fluids today. It just depends. It depends. If you're in a perfect situation, you should be able to TD your well with one run. Again, it just various reasons as to why, the power section would wear out sooner than later. There's no specific time frame.
Okay. But like you say, you're generally seeing a increase in life cycle of the elastomer.
For sure. We wouldn't make anything that had the same properties, so we're always striving for better. So.
Right. Yeah, there's always that constant strive for improvement, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, there's a question here. How do you compare this elastomer to WFT's 250 psi? I guess that's Weatherford, WFT.
I'm not sure. I don't have any data on Weatherford's.
I assume that's Weatherford's, but I can tell you that Dynapower XP is rated to 250 psi per stage, but I'm not familiar with the WFT 250 psi, which I assume it's probably referring to that.
Okay. You see a question there on the bottom that David's popped up there?
About the power pack and the DTX?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take that. So they're unrelated. So Dynapower XP is the elastomer that goes into the power section. The power pack is referring to the lower end. And then the DTX is actually our thin wall. It's the thin wall power section that we have. So DTX is a thin wall power section, which can be run with Dynapower XP, but it can also be run with any other elastomer. So the DTX just refers to it being a thin wall power section itself.
What global regions can you perform a reline on the XP rubber with?
So we have manufacturing facilities. Our primary manufacturing facility is in Houston, in the Katy area, where we do not only manufacturing, but all of our engineering as well. And then we have manufacturing based out of the Dynadrill Canada facility. And then lastly, we have Dynadrill Dubai. So those are the three areas where we can actually do relines for our power sections.
Does the stator generate the same horsepower as a pre-contoured thin rubber motor?
Yeah, so that was the last example that I showed. So that on that video, we talked about a independent test that was done where we wanted to test the Dynapower XP conventional power section versus a thin wall or a pre-contoured. And we see that the performance output, if we look at the power curves, they're exactly the same. And this was in the lab on a dyno test. Third party under the same conditions and the same power sections itself. So we have seen that from the lab, and that's pretty impressive because we don't know any other elastomer in the market that can do that. So obviously there's a lot of benefits to that.
Right. From an adoption into the fleet, are you in a position now to get the large scale rollout? You can.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
This? Yep.
Yes, sir. So we launched this in December of last year. And so we were really pushing. Yes, I know. That's what I was just going to say. We were really pushing heavy, flying to every basin, Mike and I and the team, and rolling it out. And then, of course, COVID hit. But we're well positioned to be able to support all the needs. And we have steadily been using it, especially throughout North America for this year.
Right. There's a kind of a follow-up question on this is, does the new elastomer testing also raise the confidence in rerunning a power section, for example, drilling in diesel environment and on the rack for a few days?
Well, Dynadrill stance is
that a little bit, right?
Yeah, Dynadrill stance is, once it's run in oil-based mud or some sort of a diesel fluid, it's best to reline that power section. Now, depending on the company's quality control program, it's up to them. So we stand by having those relined after each run.
Right. That's the safer route to take.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Somebody always wants to push things just a little bit, don't they?
Of course, especially these days.
So does the new elastomer use a different adhesive system?
So we don't talk much about the adhesives, but the adhesive has been optimized. It's very similar to what we use on the other elastomers in the portfolio, but without going into too much detail, it is optimized for bonding.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, somebody had popped an answer up there in the chat there for you as well. So when you see this now going forward, what are your thoughts of the future? What are future or further advancements that you think you can make with this?
I think on the power section side, it's mainly, we're at the point where we can't go any longer today as far as the length of the power section. We're at 300 inches, but there will be a day when we can go longer than 300 inches. So I see that coming down the line. I don't know as to when that'll happen, but that's where I see the technology going.
So is the limit on that from a manufacturing standpoint, actually being able to,
Yes, sir. And also on, not only manufacturing the rotors, the stators, but also the injection process as well.
Right.
Very true.
Right.
Yeah.
Would there be significant advantages if you did add length in that respect? I mean, how much power do we actually need?
It's a good question.
Very good question. Yeah, I mean, everybody tells me we need more and more power, but I mean, it's a very valid question as to what's the limit of that.
Yeah. Well, it probably goes in the same thing in guns, right? You always need a little bit bigger gun.
Absolutely.
Or at least another one anyway, right?
Don't tell my wife that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I run into those problems as well. Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things that we're seeing in the industry is that the advances are coming so quickly. I mean, it used to take years to come up with a new power section design.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that you've almost caught up with bits, but it's getting close, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we're focusing on continuous improvement, just like, in the bit industry, there's always a new cutter coming out. And now you're starting to see that with power sections. We have new elastomers coming out every year. I think as we look at the industry as a whole and we start to drill with some of the technology we talked about today, like select shift and the other technologies that aim to drill multiple sections in a single run, that is starting to see what's going to be the weak link of that section. Is it going to be the power section? Is it the motor? And we're starting to look at the entire drill string and see what's going to be the weakest link as we start to try to do these multiple curve and lateral sections. So it's a very interesting challenge to have.
Yeah. Gerard, you referred many times to the modeling and so forth. How much has that really contributed to the speed and the efficacy of this development? I mean, is this something that you use extensively in conjunction with some of the field experience then to come up with an optimal design?
Yeah, so there's two ways to look at it. So we do the modeling for the elastomer, and then we do the modeling for field applications. So when we talk about modeling for the elastomer itself, that allows us to reduce our iteration time. And so instead of having to take every single elastomer, hundreds of elastomer samples and test them, we can model the actual material itself and have confidence in the results, which allows us to shorten our design cycle. So that's one way to look at the modeling. And then the second is on the field application. And so, yes, certainly from the field application standpoint, it allows us what it really does is it gives us the confidence and the performance that we're going to achieve, whether or not it's dogleg, whether or not it's the elastomer, the life of the elastomer. For example, we've had customers that wanted to drill faster. For example, a customer who wants to put a lot of weight down hole and drill faster. We do the modeling and simulation, and we adjust and actually lower the parameters, and we see twice the life of the elastomer. And we've actually seen that to hold true in the field, where they were only able to drill, it was about 88 hours in that particular field, and they were able to drill nearly 200 hours once we actually reduced the parameters. So it's not always about drilling faster, it's about being smart with how you drill.
Right. Sometimes that's hard to convince people.
Yeah, and I heard it today on the conference. I mean, if you save yourself a bit trip, that's automatically almost $50,000 there. So yeah, it's a balance, and a lot of people you have to, like I said, it's more about being smart.
Right. What steps are you taking to educate the users in the field on what would be some of the best parameters to use in given situations?
Well, really, I rely on Mike and his team. I mean, Mike is our salesman for Dynadrill, and he does a great job, and the rest of the team does a great job of actually being in contact with the customers, resolving any issues that they have, understanding what the issues are. So I think really it's the face-to-face, and that's what we do a lot in Dynadrill.
Or Zoom to Zoom these days, right?
Yeah. We've also got a great engineering team as well. So if there's any questions that are beyond our capacity, we reach out to our engineering group and we put them in contact with the customer, and they can give us a lot more actual data and parameters and whatnot that they would see the best results from whatever the power section is.
This has come up in quite a number of our previous sessions, going back even number of years, is the communication.
Yeah.
Do you see the communication improving from the end user back to the design team? In other words, are you getting the information back that you really need?
For me, it depends on the customer, really. There's some customers who are completely involved. They want to help us so that in the end we help them develop power sections. Some customers, unless there's an issue, they don't really communicate too often. So it's 50-50. It all depends on the customer.
Yeah. Do you see a significant separation in performance between those that are more engaged with the process and those that are less?
Yeah, we've got a customer who is completely engaged, and they've got one of the higher rig counts in most directional companies. And there are others who just use the product and have a few jobs running that we don't hear much from at all.
Yeah. So along that line, then, do you think that there's things that IADD can do to help to close that communication gap and then really get give everybody a better product at the end of the day.
I'll say that one of the things that I appreciate about IADD is that it brings together different audiences, whether it's the directional companies, the operators, the bits and the sensors and the motors. I think looking at it as a system is very beneficial, and I think that's important. And that's one of the things that I think has been helping just in general. And when I speak of the industry as a whole.
Right. Well, and that's certainly something that we want to continue, and you guys participating with us in this certainly helps to get that put forward.
Yeah.
We have a note here from Neil that Rival has over 100 XP runs so far. It's doing great for them.
Yes.
So there's a good plug for that.
We work we have a lot of work with Rival, so
they
yes,
do
absolutely.
a good job. I know there's a lot of synergies between you two.
Yeah, we enjoy working with those guys.
Yeah, Doc can be a little funny sometimes, right? But Neil's not too bad, right? Obviously, I go back a few years with Doc to be able to make that comment. I'm sure I'll get a text message here before long. There's another question here. What's your take on all metal power sections?
I have no information on all metal power sections. I don't even know if any have been in the ground yet, to be honest.
Yeah. So I can tell you from the engineering perspective, we have looked into it. It's not something that we're heavily invested in right now. We still see the future with the elastomers. I think it's we're looking at ways to make the elastomer better, I would say, as opposed to going to the all metal solutions. I mean, the performance can be there, but those are very, very expensive to build, right? I mean, they're costly to build and maintain. So we really put our efforts more on the elastomer development.
Do you feel like you've reached a technical limit with the elastomers, or is there still more gains to be made?
I have a few things in my back pocket, so I would say that there's still some gains to be made there. So keep looking out.
I guess we'll have to have a more strenuous interrogation method to get maybe from that, huh?
Give me a few beers and maybe I'll start talking. So.
Well, we'll be doing that this evening. Hopefully you can join us at the Butler House, and we can go from there. Do you guys have any last minute comments that you'd like to add?
I can speak for the sales team. I myself, Mike, I cover Houston and the Oklahoma region. Chad Bauer, he covers Houston in the Northeast region, and Blake Keys covers Houston and West Texas. All of our information is on our website at dynadrill.com. So if you want to get in contact with any of us, if you have further questions, any interest in the power sections, go to our website, pick in one of our names. You can contact me directly and I'll help you or send you in the direction you need to go.
Yeah, and I'll just say a simple thank you for allowing us to host the event, and special thank you to Tracy as well, who's been instrumental in this. So
she keeps all you guys in line, right?
She does. She does.
No, that's great. Well, we certainly appreciate you guys participating to this degree. It's been great. So hopefully, I'd like to see us doing more of these. One of the advantages of the virtual events is that you can do them a little more frequently. There's not the logistical considerations. They may not all be 4 hours long. We've had some comments back, but we always seem to have stuff that we need to talk about. So it's hard to make them shorter. But I think this type of format really lends itself to be able to get the word out, get this communication out, which is very important. So thanks to you guys for supporting us.
Thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to
David,
the next.
You got the con.
Yes. So wonderful discussions there, by the way. And I do want to do a quick rundown. So that was the 12 to 12:30 session 5. So up next right now, we've got the 12:30 to 12:45 sponsor highlights with myself and Jim. Next after that, we've got session 7, the business of motors with Bill Murray. Are we eating our seed corn? That's going to be a very informative one. We might even kick that one off a little bit early if Bill jumps in soon. He could, Bill, if you wanted to join in on this conversation, feel free to. I know you've got plenty to be able to add, more so than the MWD guy like myself. At 1 to 1:05, we've got a sponsor highlight with Loditech. We have their second video. And then at 1:05 to 1:40, we've got emerging technologies with XR Lateral. We'll have Ed Spots coming on to be able to talk about XR Lateral's new next generation advanced bearing mud motor. After that, Carpenter Technology Corporation, Thomas Williams, the A21 and Advanced Stainless Steel for Power Sections. And then Rhyme Energy Services, Blake Lynn, Jeff Dugan, and Chris Sedlock, the USBS Ultra Short Bearing Section Motor. And then after that, if you are in the Houston area, we are having networking happy hour at the Butler House from 4 to 6 p.m. If you'd like to be able to join, please do so. Whew, a lot to be able to take in so far, Jim. What do you think?
There's a lot there. Yeah, let me expand on the concept behind the happy hour a little bit.
Yes, sir.
This is fairly informal. It's really just hey, we're all going to show up here at this venue for this period of time. They've got some great food and beverage options there. So it's really if you're in the neighborhood, come in, drop in. We can have a chat. And go from there. But there's no formal things needed for that. Fusion is going to be there with their cigar box that will be available. It is an outdoor venue, though it's covered, so it. I don't think the smoke will be a great bother for anybody, but a lot of times in these things, folks just want to get out and get together a little bit. So since it's an outdoor venue, so we should be in good shape there. So come on out and join us.
Excellent. All right. So I did want to be able to address something. So we had that one question that says, what's your take on all metal power sections? Great person to be able to contact about this is actually Aaron Baxter. They are working on some full metal power sections. I think Aaron did comment there in the comment section. And then we also had somebody say that came in and said Cathedral has run all metal designs with marginal results. I do know that the all metal power sections are a lot more popular in the through tubing applications as opposed to in directional drilling applications. But it's probably something we missed there as far as having somebody to be able to come on and talk about that one. So I do see, Bill, you are in the waiting room. If you want to be able to join us for this little bit of the conversation, give me a thumbs up and we'll throw you out there. All right. Yeah, getting it squared up.
Did you say throw him under the bus? Is that what you said?
There he is. All right,
Afternoon,
Bill.
guys.
Good afternoon. So, Bill, obviously being a mud motor expert yourself, can you give us your feedback on the event so far today?
I think it's been very good. I think it's surprising, even in these very stressful economic times, that the folks are still rolling out new technology and helping to deliver drilling efficiency for the operators. I mean, we're rolling out all kinds of new technologies, more powerful motors, more longer lasting motors, the instrumented motors. I mean, I think Jim summed it up well. We're moving from Volkswagens to Lamborghinis. Obviously the costs between the two are a little bit different also.
The downside to a Lamborghini, right?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for all the women to start showing up too. We're riding around on Lamborghinis now.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to bring Miles back on for that.
Exactly.
Well, Bill, I've got a question for you. Given the opportunity to be able to start up your own directional drilling mud motor division, what's the technology that you would want to have in your fleet? And then what would be the technology that you would want to be able to chase down as far as something to develop towards?
Well, I think, I don't know, was it Gunther or somebody said, the integrated products or the modular products can work well together. I mean, the Scientific's doing the stuff with the instrumented motor, getting the sensors closer to the bit. That really supports, what we've seen in several of the forums about, staying in the zone, being more productive with your drilling, more efficient with your drilling to enhance production. But, also just more powerful motors. All the operators want to drill faster. So if I was starting up a company, I think I would, look after a good, fairly straightforward motor that could address the drilling. I think the Cam Scout was a good thing. It's fairly simple, not overly complicated like an MWD motor or an integrated motor, and then move towards the integrated solutions. MWD motors, gamma in the motor, all that kind of stuff.
Bill, there's always this trade-off, though, between, is this technology significantly more expensive? Is it going to cost more versus the benefit that you derive? And I'm, sort of lobbing you a softball here as maybe a little bit of a lead in to this. But, people are spending money on the new technology. Is there the opportunity for a return on investment with this?
I think that's the whole gist of my little speech on the are we eating our seed corn? All this stuff takes a lot of money to develop. It's generally more expensive. The Dynadrill guys mentioned, okay, the longer power sections. Everybody's rolling out with bigger power sections. We saw NOV and the Select Shift and the 7 1/4. All these different sizes are more expensive. And then, ultimately we're drilling much faster with it. So, good benefits for the operator, but all the motor and service companies are mostly still located or centered on an economic model where it's cost per hour. And we're drilling the wells twice as fast with more expensive technology. It seems like you said earlier, where sometimes we're drilling ourselves out of business.
Yeah, and that's been the challenge. Obviously, the users benefit from the increased performance. But is this sustainable? Are we going to be able to keep doing it?
I don't personally believe it's sustainable. You talk to some people doing jobs and they did this, that, and the other, and you start doing some simple math without them knowing the exact numbers, and you're thinking, well, you didn't make any money on this job. You barely broke even. And the Dynadrill was talking about all the modeling they were doing. All that takes money, it takes engineers. How is this paid for when roughly the tool companies are getting half the revenue they did before? We talked earlier amongst ourselves about the motor form and bass truck. Was that 13 or 14?
Yeah, 13.
We've probably cut the time to drill a well in half since then, and I don't think the day rates have gone up much, or the hourly rates for motors have gone up. If anything, they've gone down.
Yeah.
So most of the tool companies, and if we're specifically talking about motors, it's the same for MWD and rotary steerable. They're getting significantly less revenue for these further advancements. And as we advance the technology, it gets harder and harder to push the technology. Early on, it's easier, but as the technology gets more and more evolved, it takes more and more investment and time and money to do it. I don't know long term how the economics work for the motor guys and any of the directional drilling guys and equipment guys. And I'm sure it's similar for the completions guys also, but I'd like to see the IADD do some more forums and information sharing about some of the economics and what's going on. I don't know if the operators understand the motor guys' economics, and I'm sure us motor guys don't understand the operators' economics.
Right.
This greater drilling efficiency for a lower cost is definitely allowed the operators to drill where they maybe wouldn't have drilled before. So, I just don't understand how the economics can continue like this for long term.
Well, there's actually a question popped up in the chat, Bill, that says, "What do you think the future of PDM mud motors? Is it an old technology? Is old technology then in the past, or what?"
I don't think it's old technology. I mean, we just seen in this morning's session all the new technology people are rolling out there. We see, the XP rubber puts out, according to Dynadrill, the same power or torque as a thin wall power section. The development of the instrumented motor or the smart motor, I can't remember the exact term scientific used, that took a whole lot of engineering work. And we see Rival has got the, rotary steerable specific power section or motor. So that took stuff to develop. And Doc summed it up well. With a motor, you're developing the power right there at the bit. So I think the motors are going to be around a long time, and it'll be more and more an integrated system with the whole BHA. I think they'll get closer and closer together as working and cooperating and talking to each other, but that all requires a significant funding and, cost. I just don't know how an hourly or daily rate are going to support that going forward.
Mm-hmm. That brings up a point as well. As in the past, there were specific companies. Like one company was an MWD company. There's another company that was motors. There's another company that bits. It appears to me that there's a lot of opportunity for performance enhancement, design enhancement, by having a holistic understanding of what's on.
Yeah, Scientific's demonstrated it with their smart motor, and Dynadrill mentioned they're doing all the modeling of the whole with the bits and all that to understand how it all works together. So I think that's the avenue for continued advancement of the technology, such as the motor and that stuff's going to be around a long time. But just curious to see how the economics work.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if any of y'all know who this person is, but some guy named Paul Pastusik says, I would agree. There's a lot of life left in this product line.
Yep.
Paul, thanks for watching. We appreciate it, sir. And then also we've got, do we need a minimum charge, 10 days with a penalty of 2 days per failure?
I think something like that is worth considering. That's where I think the IADD, as an educational collaborative organization, can maybe help host or facilitate some of those thinkings without violating any antitrust issues. But yeah, it's a minimum charge, or like the bit guys have kind of gone back to a footage rate. Then the people providing the technology can share in the reward for the motors and products, bits, MWD that drill better, drill faster. Right now, if you put out a more powerful motor and it drills faster, you're losing money versus if you drill slower. So, a minimum or a footage or just a flat fee. Hey, this to run the motor plus damages. They're drilling much faster and harder on the motor. So, damages become critical. If you tear up a motor, fatigue the connections because you're rotating it really fast beyond the manufacturer's limit for the speed with the bend angle, and you damage your connections, you've just wiped out a good portion of the investment the motor guy provided.
All right. Well, we are getting near time for you to be able to start your portion of it. I do want to throw.
I think I've just covered all of it already. So maybe we just want to continue with this for the same time, because I think I've covered all the points I kind of wanted to make.
All right, then. Well, then I would ask this for all the people that are out there watching. I want to be able to get y'all's feedback from what the conversations that we've covered so far. What's the most interesting technology that you've seen that you like, as well as what would you like to be able to see as far as future technology? What do you think needs to be a core focus for the industry, and what is something that the IADD as a whole could do for you in the group? I do specifically want to get Paul to be able to jump back in here. Paul, let us know what things you're thinking about. You've never been one to shy away from words, and be able to voice to us what you think IADD or the industry should be able to do. So we'll keep that going. And we've got a big long comment. It won't go up on the screen. I'll take a second to be able to read it. But so yeah, we were going to call this section. We'll let Bill at least do a portion of this. This was going to be called The Business of Motors, and Are We Eating Our Seed Corn? So I'll let you take it away there for a minute, Bill, while we get some more questions rolling in.
Okay. For those just joining us, we've been discussing, and Jim kind of set me up, lobbed the ball up for me to smack it earlier, and so we kind of covered a lot of the points I was going to cover. But basically, to summarize it, we've seen so far this morning, and we will see again this afternoon, all the new technologies and the stuff the motor guys are doing to advance the industry, drilling faster, drilling more reliably, and all that costs a lot of money. I mean, you have to have a bunch of engineers around to develop this technology. You have to have manufacturing facilities. I mean, Dynadrill mentioned the size of their facility, and it's a big investment to have that, to develop the new elastomers, manufacture the new elastomers. I'm sure Scientific spent a bunch of money developing the smart motor, and similarly with Rival in their rotary steerable specific motor, and NOV with the select shift motor. We've been thinking that in the motor industry for 20 or 30 years that would be a great technology to have, and they've got it. But all that took money to develop, whether it's in salaries, equipment, testing, and with the present business model for most of the directional drilling industry, and specifically motors, it's a time-based economics where we're getting paid for how many hours we drill. So if we develop a motor that drills faster, well, they complete the well in less time, and and the motor guys receive less revenue. I don't think that's a method that can continue. So, Jim and I were talking the other day, and, I summed it up as, I think we're eating our seed corn. You've got this revenue you need to make to recoup your engineering, but you're not recouping it. At some point, you're going to not be able to continue advancing the technology the way the economic model is set. Blaine made the comment that, maybe it should be a minimum number of days for the motor and a penalty if you fail. Well, I think any model that moves away from penalizing the motor guys for drilling faster needs to be considered, and maybe we'll evolve to, over time, hopefully for the motor guys, quicker rather than later. Because if they develop a motor that drills faster and saves the operator time and money, they get less revenue in return.
Well, I think it's important to point out, Bill, that this isn't necessarily a complaining session.
No.
I mean, neither one of us work directly in the motor industry, so we're just bringing out some things that we see and hear. We both kind of have a unique position of hearing from operators, the directional drilling companies, the OEMs, and so forth, and just listening to the concerns that they have. And I think it's good to point out, from an operator standpoint, of course, they deal with a very volatile commodity price. And, the decisions that they make at $80 a barrel are significantly different than the decisions they make at $40 a barrel or $20 a barrel. So I don't think the industry as a whole is insensitive to that commodity price fluctuation and the impact that it has on the operators. It's just that what we're talking about is actually having a sustainable business model and commercial model that actually works and keeps going. And that kind of ties into some of the technical questions. We'll use the Permian as an example, where I think most operators for a 20,000 foot well are probably in that 12 or that 10 to 12 day range, right? Where you have that. So how much lower can we go? What is the technical limit, and for the terms of days? But then the corollary question to that was one, like I asked the Dynadrill guys, is what is the technical limit in improvements when it comes to the technology and to the tools? So, how much better of a motor could we get? And what would then be the advantages? I mean, that you heard them talk about the 300-inch power section limit, right? So if we go to 400 inches, what does that buy us? And how does that translate to dollars for the service provider as well as for the operator? So, how much more could that does, and is it actually even worth the investment? You know, sometimes as engineers and design guys, we just do things because we can, not because it necessarily makes business sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason anybody pursues a lot of this technology is, you know, Dynadrill or NOV or somebody can suddenly say we can go to 400 inches long. They're hoping to gain market share and increase the volume to help pay for the investment. You know, that would be a significant investment. All the manufacturing facilities there at Dynadrill or, you know, Abaco or anybody would need to be significantly upgraded to handle the longer length. And then the motor guys would all have to design new lower ends, a bigger diameter most likely, to handle the torque. You know, and they're all doing it on the hope that they can get enough volume to pay for the investment. And similarly with, you know, whoever owns these companies, the investors or private individuals, that's a big investment to you know, get there. Somebody's texting me, wants me to mention Spira Technology, so I mentioned it.
You put a plug.
I put a plug in for them. But you know, these guys started business several years ago to develop power sections. That's a big investment. And you know, we saw a brief picture of the facility at Dynadrill. That's a huge investment. Somehow the economics have to work out for both parties. And obviously the operator wouldn't drill if it wasn't economic for them. So if all of a sudden the motors get more expensive for the operator, they're going to drill less. You know, I hope as the IADD we can do some further education and sharing of information about the economics. You know, it becomes difficult to share the numbers. You know, we reached out to several folks actively in the motor business at present, and nobody wants to share economics. Well, I'm sure they all look pretty bad at the moment, but even not considering the you know, collapse of the oil business at present, the economics were not moving in a good direction for the tool equipment guys, whether it's MWD. I mean, the Scientific mentioned it a couple of years ago or a year ago at one of the forums. All the technology and expenses invested in LWD for less money because they drill faster.
Yeah. There's a kind of a corollary. There's a question that's popped up that ties into this. Is automation as relates to wellbore placement the future of directional drilling? It looks like a lot of the tangible tech is available but lacks integration methods.
I think the automation is one way to help further reduce the cost. You know, and you know, ultimately automation is about removing people from the rig, so that's a cost savings, and it's also repeatability. If it's doing it exactly the same way versus if you got DD Joe and DD Kevin, well, they're going to do it slightly different. So it's consistency and removing people. So again, it's removing cost for the operator. You know, DD companies make a significant portion of their investment from people. So they've lost some revenue. It's got to be, we got to figure out how everybody can win on this front.
Well, you know, I hate to put it this way, but it may be that not everybody can win. There's a question here from Tamar. What about directional drillers? Do you believe that all DD services will be automated and work will shift remotely? So, I mean, that kind of leans so we don't need as many people. I mean, we're already down considerably in the industry. But is there room at the table for everybody?
I think there is. I mean, over time, you know, there's lots of roles that become bigger and roles that become less over time. I think there's always a role for a directional driller. That experience is what they're charging for. Their ability to problem solve and figure out what's going on when something crops up unexpected. You know, a lot of them are shifting to remote operations. Okay, so one directional driller in an office remotely can maybe supervise more than one job, where, you know, physically before the remote operations, they were having to be on location. I think that's one way to save cost. And obviously it means, I think over time, less directional drillers, because you got one guy in the office or at home, so he won't catch COVID, watching multiple jobs, and, we're hosting an example of that now. We're hosting this forum remotely.
Yep.
And so the venue providers, they've lost out on some money,
And we don't have a lunch from Landry's.
Exactly. I had to heat up some leftovers for lunch.
Not quite the same, is it, Bill?
Right.
Although you and I both can afford a few more salads and a little less
Yeah.
pay, right?
Yeah, you can see how I got my camera set up. So
neck up is the best thing, right?
Exactly. I mean, I do have an IADD shirt on, but
yeah, good job. Well, and so Travis Elmon has a comment here. If only us drilling folks can get some of the completion installers, and that's an interesting take. I mean, because obviously completion costs have come down as well, fracking, frac efficiency, sand cost, but really that could be the case, Travis, because if we get to a point where here again we have aligned objectives, and it's not just putting the hole in the ground as quickly as possible, but placing it in the optimal position within the reservoir so that the operator does get a higher, more consistent revenue stream. We had a forum earlier on drilling towards production, and I want to continue those types of things, because sometimes as service providers we become a little inwardly focused. So what's the most powerful motor we can get? What's the fastest MWD we can get? What's the rotary steerable that can do? Well, we have to remember that at the end of the day, the objective is not to make a hole in the ground, it's to get hydrocarbons out of the ground in a way that is economic for everybody. So I think, Travis, you may have something there that
Yeah.
really is where the value is. And if you can consistently demonstrate that value to the operators, then they don't mind paying you a little bit more because they're getting more value as well.
yeah, the scientific, smart motor is a good, very easy connection to make there, because they're drilling more precisely. They should be able to stay in the formation longer. Somehow, if they could share in that benefit, we need to tie the drilling department to the production department to the equipment guys, how we're all communicating and tied together, how it's a partnership. And I think, IADD is a good forum for doing that. We discuss the, helping each other understand the other side's economics, but I think that drilling towards production was a very good forum, and I hope we can do more of that as we move forward.
Yeah. Well, I think there he is. He just magically appears.
Somebody's got to keep us on track.
Somebody's got to keep us on track. Yep. Well, I was actually about to do that myself, David. So very good timing.
All right. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining in and having our discussion there. We'll definitely be hearing much more from you in the future as we continue to do these Mud Motor and IADD events. So we'll go ahead and pop you guys off here. Up next, I clicked my own button, not Jim's. Making tons of mistakes, you guys, but hey, that's part of it. You make mistakes, you just keep rolling with it, and no worries. So up next, we've got our sponsor highlight from Lodotech. We've got their second video, so be sure to reach out to this company, this organization. Bill's actually in the video that's about to come up here, so it's awesome to be able to see. We've even got the guys that are coming up next after Lodotech. We've got emerging technologies from XR Lateral, also Carpenter Technology Corporation, and Rhyme Energy Services. Sorry, guys, for looking down and all you're doing is staring at the top of my head. I should have been actually pulling that up here, something like that. Unprofessional of me. We'll fix it for next time. So quick video from Lodotech, and then we'll be jumping back in with Ed Spotts from XR Lateral.
Good
morning. I'm Bill Murray with IADD, and today I'm here with Loda Mud Motor bearings. This is part of the IADD Mud Motor Technology Series in anticipation of the Mud Motor Forum. Let me introduce you to Mike Speckert and Majid Del Passan. Together they have over 5 decades of experience developing technology and products for the mud motor industry. Mike, you mentioned cloth membrane during your earlier discussion. Can you explain to some of the viewers who are not familiar with the cloth technology what it is and how you make bearings with it?
So I mentioned that the cloth membrane coatings have been used in the industry for 30 plus years, and I was part of the team that developed this technology. And during most of that time, this has been the premium performance product as it applies to a mud motor bearing. The real key attribute to the technology was the fact that you could take a tungsten carbide powder and fabricate a flexible membrane and wrap that around pretty complex surfaces, a cylinder for example in this case. And the fact that it was highly engineerable, meaning that we could change the chemistry of the membrane, we could modify the particles to improve particle packing density, which would improve the hardness and wear performance of the product. And we've continued to push the performance envelope of this product over the last 30 plus years, and with Loda Mud Motor bearings we've done that again by modifying the particle sizes and changing some of the chemistry to improve the wear performance of the product. But still recognizing that there is a performance gap between the matrix cloth-based materials and the tungsten carbide tile bearing, and that was the motivation for introducing our Loda tile bearing.
Okay, that's interesting. I could see also where the cloth will allow you to apply it to IDs much smaller than some of the other weld-on, spray-on, or pure tile applications. So this is a combination of the tiles and the liquid metal matrix infiltration in between them, holding them in place. So what kind of advantages do you think that brings to the technology versus either a pure tile bearing or a pure matrix bearing?
The focus, recognizing some of the inherent issues that accompany a tile bearing, namely erosion between the tiles, being able to take advantage of our background and particle packing and knowledge and modeling and things like that, we've been able to apply that technology to the carbide tile bearing. The result is we've got a very dense carbide loading between the tiles. So erosion is no longer an issue with the carbide tile bearing.
That's got to be very important in today's business, where a lot of the operators running motors, especially with rotary steerables, are really concerned about the bypass amount. Now that you have the wear resistance and the erosion resistance of the matrix coating between the tiles, this should offer the best of both, the wear resistance of the solid carbide and the erosion and reduced bypass loss of the matrix bearing. Yeah. Sounds like y'all got a real winner here.
Absolutely. I think the other point that I'd like to mention is that we know that one solution doesn't really fit all. We think that with offering both tile bearings as well as the basic matrix bearings, we can actually hit, depending on people's maintenance interval or their requirements for the cost of the tool that they want to use, we can actually address them differently. So this not only allows us to offer different technology for different solutions, but also helps us offer different product at different price point for the same application.
You're a one-stop shop for the motor industry.
Our wear solutions are customizable for the customer's needs. In fact, we talk about 2 distinctly different coating technologies, but we have some applications where we can combine both of them together on the same bearing. So we can apply the carbide tiles where they're most needed, and the matrix membrane types of coatings in other areas where maybe tiles are not needed. So so we work closely with our customer and we listen to their needs. These are fully customizable, and because they're made here locally, we're able to turnkey these bearings quicker than our competitors who rely on supply chains from overseas.
I think that's very interesting. I think it's should be really good at addressing the mud motor's needs. I'm especially interested in where you can vary the location of the tiles. You can concentrate them on the ends. You can vary the orientation to suit your customer's specific needs and his application. That's really differentiating technology. That's great. I've seen y'all got a lot of equipment out back and technology to help facilitate that. It's quite an impressive endeavor. Well, I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to explain the technology and Loda mud motor bearings to the IADD. And everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for Loda to being one of the sponsors for today's Mud Motor Forum. They are the ones that are allowing this event to be free and that we can publicize this out to everybody. So big thanks to Loda. Please go over to their website and check out what they are doing. All right, next up, we've got Ed Spots with XR Lateral. Ed, how are you doing today, sir? Uh-oh, I think we've got a microphone issue. Tell Greg to get back over there in the room and help you. No worries. We'll be able to get this one squared away fairly quick. XR Lateral is going to be talking to us today about XR Lateral's next generation. I told that I wasn't going to do this again. XR's next generation advanced bearing and mud motor system. Try one more time there with Ed. I see you talking, but I don't hear anything. Too big of an issue. Here's what we'll do. Thomas Williams, if you are ready, give me a thumbs up. What we'll do is we'll skip over to Thomas, and then we'll come right back over to Ed. All right. All right, Thomas.
Hey, David.
Go. Yeah, I know you probably weren't expecting that one, but hey, we'll just roll with it as we come. So, Thomas, you're going to be talking to us from Carpenter Technology Corporation about the A-21 and advanced stainless steel for power sections. If you have a PowerPoint that you want to share, I'll go ahead and bring it up there onto the screen. I see it. There we go. And then if you'll just hit the reader view down there at the bottom, then it will be able to do the full screen. All right. Excellent. Man,
All
you're
right.
good at this stuff. All right. I'm off of the screen. It's yours to be able to take away. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, all right, David. Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks for IADD for having us. Thank you, Jim, for coordinating. So I'm Tom Williams from Carpenter Technology Corporation, and I'm going to take some time to introduce everyone to an alloy that we're excited about that we think has some potential to make a positive impact in the power section space. It's called A21. So as we get off, just would like to introduce everyone who may not be familiar with this, who Carpenter Technology is and what a steel mill is doing, with the presentation in the IADD forum. Our company is over 130 years old. We are a US-based manufacturer of premium stainless steel, nickel, cobalt alloys. So think about alloys like 718 and MP35N, all the really expensive stuff that goes into the harshest conditions. Our principal manufacturing facilities are in Pennsylvania, one outside of Philadelphia, one outside Pittsburgh. And our newest facility, which is pictured here in an area of Alabama, northern Alabama, near Huntsville. It's our flagship facility for producing some of our oil and gas alloys, and A21 is one of them. We've got decades of history in the oil and gas space, especially in drilling. We've got a really rich history in non-magnetic drill collars. I think that's where probably most people who have run across Carpenter in the directional drilling business are familiar. We've also got a long history in mud motors, specialty stainless steels for power sections, for transmissions, constant velocity joints, bearing mandrels, and more recently, in the last couple of decades, introducing our products into rotary steerable systems. I've listed a couple of the key alloys that you may have heard through the years. and Custom 465 and Primo Max have been our biggest offerings to date in the mud motor industry, primarily looking at transmissions and drive shafts. So we started looking at, we've been working, like I said, in mud motors for several years, and so we've seen the trends go on with increasing torque. Our colleagues from Dynadrill were talking, pretty extensively today about the advancements they've been making in elastomers, and so all of the metal sections of the tools that are downstream of those power sections, including the rotor, now need to catch up. And so when you look at rotor technology, alloy steel was the mainstay for a while. Then 17.4 pH has now moved into, from what I understand, it's roughly 70% or so of rotors nowadays are typically 17.4 because of its corrosion resistance and compatibility with thermal sprays, et cetera. And it's been a reliable workhorse, for a long time. It started out that most people would get the NACE compliant version in a heat treatment called double H1150, which was great because it had good toughness. It was very robust, somewhat limited in strength, but when torque ratings weren't as they are today, that you could get by with that. And now people are having to heat treat to more aggressive conditions. So they've introduced a lower aging temperature to increase strength. Unfortunately, it's had the side effect of limiting toughness. So these high torque applications are stretching 17.4 to its limits. And when you look, even further into it, you look at properties that are, what do you want the rotor to be able to do? Obviously, you want it to carry the load, and you want it to have some damage tolerance because of shock, because of manhandling. There's just so many different opportunities for cracking and other things to occur in a downhole situation. So you want that alloy to be able to have some kind of damage tolerance. And the more aggressively you heat treat this alloy to gain the strength needed to make sure you don't bell your connections, to handle the hoop strength that's required in the connection, now you're sacrificing that damage tolerance. Not only that, the alloy has some metallurgical quirks about it that can lead to, if it's not manufactured at to a very exacting set of quality standards, you can end up with decreases in fatigue life because of some bad metallurgical properties. And to looking at the manufacturability side from a kind of a holistic cost perspective, cost of manufacturing, there's also some challenges there because the more aggressively you heat treat 17.4 to try to get to higher strength conditions, you have to do processes like water quenching during manufacturing, which can introduce thermal stresses, especially if it's not handled really, really tightly from a quality perspective. That induces bending that needs to then be straightened, at a mill facility or a precision grinding and straightening facility. And that leaves residual stresses in the material. So then when you start cutting your helical pattern for the power section, all of a sudden you relieve those stresses and the thing spaghetti noodles on you, and you have to spend a lot of time straightening, and the manufacturability becomes a concern. So with those issues in mind, we went back and started thinking to ourselves, is there something in our portfolio of alloys that we have that might be a good candidate to be a 17.4 replacement and a step change in performance? And what we came back with was an alloy called A21. This is an alloy that actually has existed for quite a while. It's balloted into NACE MR0175 for production tubing, believe it or not. This was originally designed to compete with 13 chrome alloys in that space, but now we are exploring opportunities for it to do more, especially as a solid bar product that would then go into applications like rotors or gears or bearings. There's a lot of metallurgical kind of geekiness you can get into about what makes A21 go, but the big thing is that it's a very lean alloy in terms of the alloy contents, which is good from a cost perspective, obviously. And it's also a very elegant design. The way that this alloy was designed was at the atomic level, the carbon and titanium in this alloy are perfectly balanced to form really fine particles that are in this micrograph image. And in fact, there's, I believe, in a cubic millimeter, it's something like several trillion of these little particles. And what these do is they have several benefits. They maximize the corrosion resistance of the alloy because they protect the chromium from from precipitating other secondary phases in the metallurgy that will then cause the chromium not to resist surface corrosion, but instead just be tied up in the metal matrix, which is not good. These fine particles also have the effect of causing the microstructure to be very fine. In fact, most of our results are ASTM 8 grain size or finer, which for those not as in tune with metallurgy or materials engineering, the finer the grain size, that has a huge impact on fatigue life and can give a big boost not only to fatigue life but also to strength. And the final point about this alloy that's really encouraging for this application in rotors is that the heat treatment is very simple. It's an air quenched and tempered heat treatment. So it's very much like heat treating an alloy steel in terms of times and temperatures. And because the alloy is very hardenable, you don't have the requirement to water quench it, which means that with a properly designed process, we can really limit the amount of distortion that would occur during subsequent machining practices. So just to kind of summarize it, what we're looking for as we're engaging with industry partners on this, what we're hoping to deliver through A21 is a increase in torque ratings. That's first and foremost. You look at the power section technology, and then also the needs, from an economic standpoint, talking about motor assisted drilling technology. How do you make more hole faster, more efficiently? Torque is number one on that list. So increasing torque ratings by increasing the strength of the alloy. But not only just doing that, making a high strength alloy is simple enough, but also increasing the damage tolerance, the fracture toughness of the alloy. When you look at A21 compared to 17.4 and some of the samples that we've done, the testing we've done so far, talking about almost doubling the standard toughness in the alloy. Improved manufacturability, longer fatigue life. So all these things are opportunities to squeeze costs out of the system, the operating cost. And then another feature that's great about A21 is it's very weldable. It's readily weldable. So looking at things like stub welding and repairs and retrofits. So not only can A21 be used for new rotors, it can also be used as a stub welded connection on existing rotors, 17.4 alloy steel. And once this alloy gets into the field, obviously things, these rotors need to be repaired from time to time. So if a connection is damaged for some reason, it's straightforward to cut the connection, stub weld, and repair. It's compatible with all the standard thermal sprays and coatings, so hard chrome, tungsten carbide, no issues there. Compatible with thread locking compounds, especially those that need a heat input to break them loose. So there's the tempering temperature of A21 is well above the temperature needed to break out thread compounds. No issues there. And finally, commercial viability is obviously huge. I made a mention about the very lean chemistry and elegant design of the alloy. That allows it to be competitive in a marketplace that we know is, cost is key right now. And to wrap up, I'll just give you an update on our project status. This is a developmental project for us. So this is currently in a research and development stage. Where we've gotten to date is we are actually in the process of forging our first sets of 5-inch diameter bars that are approximately 280 inches long. So these will be targeted for our first full-scale demonstrations, and then moving into manufacturing and field trials with a couple of partners that we've been working with. We're anticipating these bars to be done hopefully before the end of the year, and then getting into trials by Q1 of next year. And then we'll be following up with some more fatigue testing, corrosion testing, lab scale testing on the material we make to confirm that all of the initial test results we've gotten from our small samples are validated in the large product size. So we're certainly keen to work with manufacturers of power sections. I know we've talked to several, some of whom are represented in our group today, others that surely have opportunity to work with. So if for those that are interested in learning more, Certainly you can reach out to me. My contact information is up on the screen. Also, we have a gentleman who was the inventor of this alloy named Dr. Robert Buck, who is based in our facility near Pittsburgh, who can also field questions. So we're excited. You know, it's a development project that's in the pipeline, but we think it could have a big impact on the technology going forward as these power sections get more and more capable.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much. We do have to make this pretty quick. Don't have time for questions. We've got to go to the other presenters before we run out of time because we can only broadcast for 4 hours straight on LinkedIn. So thank you so much, you guys. If you need to be able to get in touch with him, stick around for the comment section, and I think he'll be able to answer any of the remaining questions that we've got there. All right, next up, we've got the XR lateral team with Ed Spots. I believe now we've got all of the audio stuff fixed and ready to go. So Ed, are you there, sir?
Yes, David.
Booyah. All right, Ed, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Thanks, David. And thank you, Thomas, for stepping in for me. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our new inventions to the IADD today. XR lateral started with the premise that there were many advantages to the end user to switch the use from high bend standard bearing motors to low bend, high build, new bearing steerable motors. We have field tested lots of optionality related to the new features and benefits that will be shared today. Our inventions will also create important improvements for motors used to assist the rotary steerable systems that has been discussed already today. We just wanted to show you this this is an overbed motor that's being machined in a double chuck lathe. It's a 2.3/8 bend housing. And what you see is the back chuck, and see the violence of the rotation. We've muted the sound. We know that there's been excellent work by oil companies and service companies collaborating to do some lab test drilling with large bend motors, and the results support areas of dysfunctions as ledges and transitions formed in a wellbore that will cause problems. And it's our belief that lowering the bend to even a lower degree than has been presented today, down to 1 degree or less, will have positive influences as we drill these longer laterals. This SP paper references 151248. The ledges and the other transition dysfunctions can also probably negatively influence cementing, fracking, and lateral length and ultimately productivity. Our first goal to design was using the CAD software supported by physics-based efforts to create positioners that would optimize the directional change efficiency of the lower bend angle being used. Please notice the new shapes that we have and the lack of full wrap contact that have been done with years from the straight hole drilling. Being now able to effectively reduce the bend supports the following benefits. A smaller rotate hole will allow for possible directional desired change tendencies while rotating. The smaller rotate hole also allows for better hole cleaning as well as higher surface rotational speeds because of the lower bend used. And also the smaller rotate hole should reduce the probabilities of drilling away from plan. Also, the people have started to talk with the long laterals about oscillations using steerable motors, and we believe that this will also be less of a concern because of the less overgauge hole being drilled in these type of, with our type of positioners and lower bend. This is a slide just showing two examples, a conventional motor using a larger bend and the initial CGG motor that was using a 1.75 bend. And you can notice the much smaller rotate hole with our tool versus the standard tool. And while we show a buildup rate of 16 degrees, we were doing that right off of vertical and it went up to over 20 degrees. So we slapped down the bend even further to about 1.38 to 1.5 for the early testing. One of the things we heard about today, which was encouraging, is that we're starting to also talk about the other parts of the drilling stream. What we have is a trademark name called out-of-cut drilling dysfunction. The larger the bend, the more offset, the more out of contact cutters we have. And we believe that when we get down to the 1 degree bend, we can continually engage 90% of the cutters. And the other 10% at risk, we can identify and implement chamfers and other protective features there and not have to do it all over the bit face, which could slow down the bit or actually create where the wrong bit is being used. We wanted also to invent a dynamic lateral pad that would be used to support the directional change desired and would lower the bend angle even more. We also believe that some of the additional benefits would be the reduction of static friction near the bit while sliding. This was our biggest challenge to date and then became our biggest discovery and huge advancement. We wanted the device that could allow for activation off of a pattern configuration so it would activate opposite of the stride. This was more difficult to find the most efficient material combination to do this effectively, but from our team of engineers, we were able to generate a material science breakthrough that created a whole new type of bearing package that is different than what is used today. We no longer need a thrust stack, a bearing stack, or tungsten carbide radial bearings in our bearing section. After this discovery, we felt that when we also, I don't know why it's not. Oh, sorry. We took time to investigate the discovery after we were able to do it, and we used an atomic force microscope to do some of the evaluation and also hired bearing experts to be able to evaluate the technology from that end. And fortunately for us, because of the new bearing, we were able to generate larger mandrels to be used for both the steerable motor and the rotary steerable system assist motor. And as you can see here, the bending strength has been improved 3 times. And the torsion has also been improved 1.5 times. Real estate is critical at this point of our discussion and what's available going forward. We were able to generate a higher level of real estate in the motor, both in the axial, where we were able to create about a 0.8-inch area where we could use for other things, and also the bit to bend was allowing us to have a shorter bit to bend, and we could use that for either what we're going to talk about in a minute, or use it as a shorter bit to bend creation. This is important because what we were able to do with all of our inventions and the patents filed and also issued is we were able to combine many features and be able to create a much lower bend, more efficient motor for the drilling projects. And we believe that this is going to be exciting going forward to what we'll be able to do with the economic results that was talked about earlier by Jim and the team. One area that we're able to advance our technology in is that we're able to add sensors into the bearing element because of the extra space available. And while there's multiple sensors that the gentleman from Scientific talked about, there's also many that would be able to help with the positional accuracy of the wellbore in the shale formation or other formations, depending on the application. But we're very excited about having this here, and there would be no additional bit to bend needed. One of the beautiful things that happened to us on this road to discovery is that we realized very quickly that there were multiple industries that could use this new bearing. And we're excited about that potential in non-oil field applications also. In 1966, there was a gentleman that created a report called the Jost report. And what he said there was that 23% of all energy is used just to overcome friction. And we believe because of our low friction invention, we'll be able to help the environment as well as our industry with the operators trying to drill for oil and gas. I'm very sorry about the difficulties this morning.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for your presentation. That actually puts us right at our time limit. I will say this. I know this group very well. They're an amazing group of people. So much love there to Greg, Ciamara, JD, and I know I'm missing somebody. Mike Reese, thanks. It's right. I've got like 1,000 things going on over here today that I'm going to be able to keep track of. But if you guys are looking for more information, what's the best way to be able to get in touch with you there, Ed?
Right now, we'll be able to provide that, but it would be e.spots@xrteam.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for your presentation, and I look forward to seeing even more of the technology that you guys have created and developed, being able to integrate not only in the oil and gas industry, but outside of it as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, so next up, we've got the team at Rhyme Energy Services, Blake Lynn, Jeff Dugan with the ultra short bearing section motor. We got a little video for them real quick that we'll play, and then we'll be bringing them onto the show. Here we go.
Thank you to the IADD Forum for the opportunity and providing a platform for motor suppliers to educate the drilling industry about our products. Rhyme Energy Service is excited to present our AccuPath Ultra Short Bearing Section Downhole Motor USBS technology. The USBS motor bridges the gap between RSS and conventional mud motors in both performance and reliability. With over 80 commercial runs to date, we continue to strive to meet our customers' demands for performance and reliability.
This is our AccuPath USBS motor. This motor is quite unique compared to your conventional bend housing motor in that it features a 17-inch bit to bend that's configured with an internal offset sleeve configurable from 0 to 1 degrees depending on your desired build rates. The unique geometry of this motor allows for a motor that's concentric throughout. All the housings run at 0 degrees. There's no bent housings. The bit to bend length here, from bit to the center of the primary stabilizer, 17 inches, gives you a unique advantage in your operating ability. You'll notice that the bit shaft is articulated at 1 degrees, as seen in the protractor here. The geometry of the motor is set up uniquely in that we utilize the 1 degree internal offset coupled with a primary and secondary stabilizer. Just as with a conventional mud motor, we have our high side that's lined up with our MWD offset. The operation is the exact same as you would orient a high side on a motor with any conventional fixed motor.
The Rhyme AccuPath USBS drilling system is a very unique tool. Although it's used like a traditional mud motor, the design of the tool is essentially like a fixed point-to-bit rotary steerable. We utilize PDC bearings that are very high load bearing, very wear resistant. They're positioned basically on either side of a theoretical sphere that encompasses the lower bearing housing of the tool. That allows you to have an offset selected with an offset tube based on customer specifications for how you'd like to have the tool set up. The other two aspects of the tool that are configurable by customer specification are the other two stabilizers that complete the 3-point geometry. Usually we send the tool out in a 1 degree with undergauge stabilizers. One advantage of having the PDC bearings on either side of the main housing means that the entire mandrel is basically exposed to allow very large radial bearings along the entire length, which gives you a more robust bit shaft as well as a larger through bore for flow.
The Rhyme USBS has a bit to bend length of just 17 inches. Combined with the 1 degree internal offset tilt of the mandrel can yield a comparable DLS to a conventional 2.38 degree bent housing motor. The USBS motor provides much better hole quality by creating a near gauged hole, consistent DLS throughout the wellbore, and an operating RPM that is not limited by the excessive bending and stresses you get with using a conventional high bend angle motor assembly at high RPMs.
Rime's AccuPath series motors come with a full lineup of cutting-edge solutions. In addition to the USBS, we offer a premium conventional bent housing motor called the Apex, and for RSS Assist applications, the Apex Assist Pin Down. AccuPath components are featured throughout our lineup and are interchangeable, allowing our clients to get the most out of their assets while determining the right fit for their application. All AccuPath motors feature minimal bypass. This is of particular importance in RSS Assist applications, where the Apex Assist delivers optimum flow throughout the course of the run, ensuring the RSS tool maintains the flow required to operate as designed from start to finish.
Thank you all for watching today. We greatly appreciate our customers, domestic and international, for their support this year in these challenging times.
Amazing video, and thank you guys so much for being here. We've got Blake, Lynn, and Jeff. Jeff, thank you guys. What can you guys tell us about this motor that was not in the video?
Which motor are you referring to? The assist?
Either one of them. You tell me.
So the motor is not in the video, which I'm glad you asked that, because it is a huge part of our portfolio of products. Is our pin down assist RSS, the Apex motor. One of the things you saw a dyno there with a 7857 ERT, and you could see at full flow at 700 gallons per minute the minimal bypass through the bearing. That's a big deal. So what we get the benefits of having a mud lubricated bearing system with the PDC bearings that we run, as well as the ability to deliver the flow to the RSS tool efficiently. So it's definitely a product that we're excited about, and we have several runs on it. 1-run laterals, 2.5 mile laterals all throughout the Permian. So we're excited about that product. Thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, we definitely concur with everybody with regard to RSS Assist motors, the demand in the market. And our tool is specifically designed for that. As Blake mentioned, the PDC bearings, maximum weight on bit, flow rate, and just the architecture of the tool allows for the RSS as far as that large mass hanging off the end of the mud motor, which is uncharacteristic of conventional motors. So we strongly believe that is a path that people are going, and we are pushing that technology and developing solutions.
Well, obviously, we've seen a lot of different technologies be provided or be put on display today. Why is it that you guys, obviously you guys went the route of being able to reduce the bend angle and also obviously reduce the bit to bend length. Why is that such a hot topic right now?
Man, I'm going to tell you what, it's kind of funny. We got a few of them now all coming together at once, and our take on it is, good, right? Let's have some industry adoption, because the data is there. I believe XR Laterals Technology brought up a slide of article that was in the SPE with Bill Lesso and guys at Chevron and Schlumberger partnered on. That image says a lot, where it shows the transition from rotating to sliding. And what's interesting is, if you look at that picture, that's actually with a 1.41 degree motor. So if you imagine a 225 to 238 motor, when it goes from slide to rotating, the ledging that it creates it's unbelievable. I think everybody's becoming aware of that. I think that we're trying to drill faster and farther, and by staying on center, by drilling a near gauge hole, these ultra short bend motors, they undoubtedly offer an advantage. I think eventually it'll be commonplace throughout the industry. We've got, like Jeff had mentioned, over 80 runs on our tool. This hasn't happened overnight. This has been a lot of development. Our bearings that we run in our tool have been tested extensively. So finding the proper bearing for our tool. So we're really, this isn't a new prototype here that we've got. We're commercial. We're ready to roll. It's built for high flow, up to 750 gallons per minute. Soon to be pushing it to 800 gallons a minute. So that's another thing. It's not just the bend, right? It's how do we design the motor for tomorrow and for next year? Well, we answer that through allowing a high flow rate, as you mentioned, the PDC bearings being separated on bottom and off bottom, and having that internal real estate for a larger mandrel, more flow through. It's a phenomenal product. It's extremely well engineered. It's set up for, whatever you power section manufacturers are going to be coming up with next. Let us test them out for you. We're ready. I think these forums have been a great thing as far as setting the stage for us to start communicating, whether it be a motor manufacturer, an OEM like ourselves, with a power section manufacturer, and communicating what are we doing next? What's the low hanging fruit, or what's the challenges with what we're trying to do on your end?
Look at the changes that we've seen just in the last few years with bit technology, power section technology. I mean, you can't take an older mud motor and put these new power sections on, right? It's not reliable. Our motor line is driven all the way from clean sheet engineering all the way up. FEA analysis, material science, and it was one of the first proven, internal bend motors. So we have a legacy of runs with the tool, as well as it offers a lot of attributes of what a point-to-bit RSS does, meaning that you're going to drill a well-gauged hole, less torosity down hole, and you're able to rotate at high RPM speeds. These are all things that operators want to do. That's the demand for where the industry's going. And we are pushing the pedal to the metal and making it happen.
Well, once again, thank you guys so much for being a part of this today. Whoever made your video did an absolutely amazing job.
Red Flower Media.
My mom.
Rebecca Cunningham, give her a call.
So
we got off last night, David. We were up here. I was up here until 12:30. Rebecca Cunningham with the Red Flower Media I had to mention her because she's absolutely incredible person and does a phenomenal job.
I'm somewhat partial to her as well. So, so let us know.
Without her, it was a great experience, and we definitely thank her.
Well, let us know what's the best way to be able to get in touch with you guys.
Okay, I'll actually, which it was at the tail end of our video.
Just tell us. Just tell me.
Blake.lind@rhymemotors.com, Jeff.dugan@rhymemotors.com. My cell phone's 832-279-3382.
There it is.
It's callers these days. I'm used to it.
It's on the internet now. All right, guys, thank y'all so much. We do appreciate it. We look forward to hearing and seeing more of y'all's success in the near future. All right, now we're going to jump back over here. We're going to bring on the executive director. Jim, what do you think?
Well, I think that was a very shameless plug there for your mother, but I don't blame you for it. She does do really good work. So I want to wrap up by saying thanks to everybody. I think this went well. Good content. David, you did a good job. I know it was a little bit of new software and a few things along, but we were able to persevere. So wrapping up, remember we do have the happy hour, little networking event. It will be at the Butler House in Gosling. Address is on the website and so forth. You can go track it down there. We'll be there from about 4 till 6. So come on out. It's a casual thing. Be outside, so just come out if you want to get a little socialization in. So I want to thank everybody for participating and the good comments. David?
And before we get cut off here, because I think we've got the 4-hour time limit, I want to be able to say thank you to everybody that's watching, especially all of you guys out there on the internet, in LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. I want to make a special thank you to Dynadrill, who was our premier or title sponsor for today's event, as well as Loda Technologies, Loda Tech. Be sure to go and check out both of those companies. They have done so much for us in being able to help keep everything going within the IADD. Look forward to also the December 4th, the event with our clay shoot event. That's the one that Scott Dixon's heading up. So we look forward to being able to see everybody out there. And then for who can make it, guys, be sure to go out to the networking and happy hour event. Until next time, it'll probably be next year before we do another virtual event. We look forward to seeing you guys stay healthy, and keep the bit on bottom. Anything else, Jim?
That's it. Thanks, guys.
All right. We did it. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.